The following is a presentation of SIRTOBA Media and COMI Media Incorporated.
Welcome back to another edition of Total Football Talk. Are the Chicago Bears screwed for the 2024 season? Should the NFL adopt the drone camera angle from current UFL production staffs for video content? And how are things looking for wide receiver Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs? All that and more on this edition of Total Football Talk. Welcome back to another edition of Total Football Talk. I am your co-host, Drew Willingham, back for another edition, the 37th edition of Total Football Talk here on Monday, May the 13th, as we are live for the next 2 hours to bring you some great action in professional football.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Or is it? Now, look. When it comes to this Total Football Talk action, we are here. We are live every Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Central Time, and what would it be? 1 p.m. Pacific Time. So for those of you out there across the United States, across the globe, make sure you are here every Monday to check us out. But without further ado, we have to get started with our program, that being Total Football Talk number 37. And we've got some things to discuss in this show. We've got to discuss UFL's Week 7 recap, Week 8 preview, and we got some NFL topics to discuss along that as well. But without further ado, I have to introduce my co-host, as always, the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson.
Oh Lord, well, thank you. You do me such honor with such a rousing intro. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I try my best to get it close to Cole Johnson level, and with Cole Sports, but with the Z. But I miss that show so much. Mainly the with the Z in there. That's my favorite part. That's why when I bring out beyond the streams with the Z, hopefully at some point, Cole Johnson can do the voiceover for that with the Z, and that would be amazing. But that would be later in 2024, not right now. I already have too much going on in this moment. Speaking of which, we have a lot going on right now in professional football. We witnessed a lot this past weekend. We had one, and I mean one fantastic game, finally in the UFL, because the past few weeks have been pretty bleak, all right? Now, we got some things to talk about this week, and I look forward to covering it with you here in the opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips right at 42, 989 on two. Ready? Break.
And here with the opening drive, we got 4 great games. Well, I wouldn't say great games, but we got 4 games to discuss here from the UFL Week 7 action. We'll start this off with the Renegades finally getting a win, putting up 47 points. Yeah, the 1-5 Showboats traveling to Arlington, taking on the 0-6 Renegades in this matchup. A team that hasn't played like an 0-6 team. We've talked about it all year long. Well, I wouldn't say all year long. For pretty much the past month and a half. We got a team here that has an 0-6 record coming into this game, but hey, they finally turned on the Jets and put up the most points they put up all season long. 47 points, in fact, to the Showboats 23. And Luis Perez, man, throwing dimes, 296 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, that was he's definitely been putting up stats this year, and finally it comes into fruition to get them their first win of the year. You know, Sal Cannella, 9 receptions, 72 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Of those 3 that Luis Perez threw on up, along with J.P. Payton, had 4 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown. Davion Smith, 14 carries, 101 receiving yards with 101 rushing yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. The Renegades defense finally stepped up too, man. 4 sacks, 2 interceptions. Joe Powell and Tenny Adewasi step up, as well as 2 fumble recoveries by that defense. You know, the other side of that, the Showboats, Troy Williams, 127 passing yards, a touchdown and an interception, along with 6 carries and 34 yards with a touchdown, combined with Case Cookis' 103 passing yards and a touchdown with an interception, and David Davis contributing with 7 receptions to 83 receiving yards, a touchdown, and the invincible one, Vinny Papali, the son of Vince Papali, 7 receptions, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Just wasn't quite enough to get this team over the hump. What were your thoughts when it comes to this game right here, Cole, in this Renegades Showboats game? Looks like he might have had to step away for a second. Well, I'll give my thoughts for it because, well, coming into this episode, Cole had some things he had to take care of. So this might be one of those moments where he had to step away for a few minutes, has some maintenance going on at the house, but won't go any further than that. But first of all, let me acknowledge the chat that we have here. We have Sick Diggy in the house saying, "What in the all types of blue hell," he says. And Cole is back. Total
Surprise, motherfucker.
Why?
But
Good evening, Sick. Why?
was that one of the maintenance man step aways?
Yeah.
Yes, I figured. That's what I figured. So we just kind of rolled right through it. But you know, we broke down the stats pretty much from this first game of the week with the Renegades, you know, coming in 0-6, getting their first win. What were your biggest takeaways from this past weekend with this game in particular right here?
Look, I believe when a team fights the way they do, and you can find certain nuggets of success, that eventually it's all going to come together. And I think that's what we saw with this game. It is really difficult to say, I don't think that you all didn't do this. It is really hard to say that with the Renegades this past weekend. I will take 300 passing over close to 300 passing yards. I'll take over 100 yards rushing, and I'll take 4 sacks on defense too, and getting 2 INTs and 2 fumble recoveries. That is a total football effort. Probably the best one of the week in the UFL. Congratulations to the Renegades. They deserve it. They've been scrapping and fighting, and it just shows that tenacity pays off, and I'm glad that they stuck with it.
Absolutely. And I mean, coming out of the first quarter, it was a pretty tight game. There wasn't really much action going on. It was only a 6-3 Renegades game, only a 3-point lead. But going into halftime was when the Jets were turned on. They were up 25-9 going into halftime. And they never looked back at that point because by the end of the third quarter, it was 39-17. And, you know, the teams would only put up 6 more points pretty much after that. Well, the Renegades would put up another 8 points, the Showboats another 6. And that's how the game would round out here. So not much action pretty much beyond the third quarter, but between the second and third quarter, that was where we had the most action in this game. It was nice to see the Renegades finally turn it up and finally get a win. You know, the sad thing is if they get 3 more straight wins and match their record from last year. And it's just like, well, if you could be good for the last month of the season, where was this the first 6 weeks? So that,
yeah, it's amazing when you have those types of losses where many of them came by 1 score or less, where it's like, this one defensive play they didn't make, or this one offensive play they lacked making. It's amazing how they can all pile up. And it is unfortunate because this would be one of these teams that if they were able to put it together within just a small scope, we would be talking not one and we wouldn't be talking about a 1-win team. We'll be talking about a playoff caliber team, which they were last year. They actually won the XFL. So I really want to see if this team now can play spoiler and actually springboard themselves into a better 2025.
It's going to be interesting to see if they can do that because, I mean, they're putting up great offensive numbers. Luis Perez has not been a slouch. I mean, he's been up there in the top 3 to 5 in passing in all the statistics throughout the entirety of the season. And usually when you have that, you at least have a team that's hit 500 at least.
Right.
You know, especially when you see what AJ McCarron and, you know, Martinez of the Stallions, you see what Adrian Martinez of the Stallions are doing. Yep. And they're the top 2 teams of the league right now. And we'll get to that game here in a little bit because it was great to actually see 2 great competitive teams face off against each other for the first time in many weeks. So, but with that being said, that's pretty much will do it for the first game of the week. Let's go ahead and take this into our next game. The next game being the Michigan Panthers traveling to D.C. to take on the Defenders. The 5-2 now Michigan Panthers get the win 22-9 over the now 3-4 Defenders. For this matchup this past weekend, Bryce Perkins, 116 passing yards, but Matthew Colburn II, though, was one of the leading charges for the Michigan Panthers. 16 carries, 137 yards. Though Wes Hills got 10 carries for 37 yards and got the touchdown, still doesn't take away from Colburn II's contributions from this game. You know, Samson Nacua, though, we talked about his debut the week before, the brother of Kai Nacua and Puka Nacua. You know, he kind of went off a little bit more this upcoming week, tripled his receptions because last week he only had 2. This week has 6 for 45 yards. Cole Hikatini, you know, contributes as well, 2 receptions, 39 yards. You know, the Panthers defense, 3 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. Kai Nacua, though, is definitely no slouch again this week. 8 tackles, 7 of those being solo. But the big story, though, for the Michigan Panthers is, again, Jake Bates, Cole, 3 for 3 on field goals. First one going for 51 yards, another 50-plus, you know, to add to the numbers for this season. The next one being 22 yards, and the third one being 40 to go perfect on the day to help this team attribute 22 points. Jordan Ta'amu, 127 passing yards and a touchdown, along with Jalen McClendon, 73 passing yards total for, you know, about 200 yards, but can only put up 9 points altogether. Ty Scott, 2 receptions, 87 yards receiving with a touchdown, along with Kelvin Harmon still getting, you know, numbers, 6 receptions for 37 yards. The Defenders running backs, though, another week of dismal action on the ground, 58 rushing yards on 13 attempts. When you put all that together, what were your thoughts, you know, when you see the highlights and everything from this game right here?
For a casual fan, they would say this game was ugly. From a pure standpoint, yeah, I mean, you could say this game was ugly, but you could take some things away from it. And look, this was basically a defensive style of game where it just depended what points were coming at a premium. Although, well, the Defenders' defense couldn't stop Michigan's as much. But I think it's now time for us to talk about, and I know this sounds really strange to say this, Jake Bates could be an MVP candidate this year. And I know you're like saying, wait a minute, Cole, wait a minute, that's a kicker. Well, there is precedence because from in the NFL handles, from my partner's favorite team, about 42 years ago, we actually had a kicker that was the MVP. So it has been done, and it could be done with old Jake Bates. Just to me, yes, they're 5-2 is Michigan, and that's great, and they're in the thick of things. But dare say that 5-2, you could probably rest maybe 2 or 3 of those wins on that leg of Mr. Bates. And I love that. I love that he is that important to the team, and hopefully they can carry this forward.
Absolutely. And the guy that my co-host is alluding to is Mark Mosley back in the early 80s. The only kicker I can
Mhm.
recall, and I
The
think
only
the only
kicker,
kicker,
yeah.
yeah,
The
to
only kicker.
ever win the NFL MVP. And
Mhm.
wasn't that during the strike shortened season?
Yeah, it was during 1982, the strike shortened season. Yeah,
So history would be different, perhaps, had it been a full length season.
probably so. Probably so.
However, you can't take away from how great he was that year. He
No.
definitely was a big part of why they had the success in the 80s that they did,
Mhm.
especially the early half of it. Those first
Yeah.
2 Super Bowls, you got to give him credit, and especially what he did, throughout the 70s as well. I think he was a part of the over the hill game, but he was like the youngest member of the team, the kicker at the point in the early
Yeah.
70s.
Yeah,
I'll have to go
very
back
early.
and double check. For those of you who are watching right now, Sick Dicky being one of my good fact checks, like Sick Dicky's like the Tony Reale of my shows. Definitely go back and fact check everything for me. Sick. Was Mark Mosley part of the Over the Hill game? I mean, I appreciate it. It's definitely a cool thing to have out there. We're streaming, we're talking. We can't be all over the place one time. We got to
So
keep
that'd be
things
the 1972
in our
team.
lane.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So, but I think he was. I know he was a part of the team in the 70s, and I'm not sure if he was a
Oh,
part
he
of
definitely was part of the team in the 70s. I can't remember how early he was a part of that team. But yeah, he was part of the team in the 70s.
I know Joe Theismann went there in the 74 or something from the Dolphins. So, I mean, he was around the time too. But yeah, the two of them, part of the offense and special teams, and they had a solid defense back then.
So yeah.
But there were some snubs when we had him being selected as the NFL MVP. And I feel like if history repeats itself with a professional football league selecting an MVP as the kicker, I feel like there might be some more blowback. And now we have social media, which is different than 40 years ago. So we're going to hear a lot more snowflakes out there crying if Jake Bates gets it. However, based on what we've seen throughout the league, I wouldn't be mad if Martinez or AJ McCarron gets it, but more than likely Martinez would get it over McCarron because of the matchup that we're about to talk about here shortly, for one. But for two, they're undefeated. They're 7-0 right now. That is why you have to look at this right here when it comes to that. But yeah, Cole brings up a great point. You got Jake Bates, who has only missed 1 field goal, I believe. We'll have to go back and check during the commercial break here in a little bit. But right now, I'm going to say, I agree with Cole. It's got to be Jake Bates or Adrian Martinez. However, when we have the topics after we review the games here in a little bit, that is one of our topics that we'll actually break down a little bit more. And we'll get to that here in a few. Mickey Delaney pops in and says, sorry, I'm late. I was watching Brian Snow with Jessica Borga, the Black Widow MMA. Well, that's cool, man. That's awesome. Glad you're out there to check out some other things on these streams, especially Snowman, who's got some great content. And for those of you who haven't seen, go check out Snowman Multimedia on all your major platforms, YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff. And he puts out some great content along with some clips from his shows, which, speaking of this week, SIRTOBA Media is going to be getting a little bit more active in that as well. Clips from this show, clips from last night's show, D Willy in the evening, which we had some pretty interesting topics last night to talk about. And the In or Out sports debate is tonight as well. So for those of you wanting to check out some more sports action later tonight, we got the In or Out sports debate. Corey Mann's in the house, 9:05 p.m. Eastern time for episode 107. But right now, it is episode 37 of Total Football Talk, where we are recapping the UFL Week 7 recap. The Undefeated Stallions turn back against the Battlehawks to upset the attempt on that one. Now, Cole is back. Cole! And we were talking about, again, the previous teams of the Panthers and the Defenders. And, this game right here with that, I think I agree with you. Jake Bates is probably up there in the MVP discussions along with Adrian Martinez. McCarron probably takes a step back after this past weekend. But we'll break that down here a little bit more later on in the show. But right now, we still have 2 more games we got to break down from this past weekend. And here with game number 3, we have the San Antonio Brahmas taking on the Houston Roughnecks in San Antonio. Another battle of Texas right here. The 1-6 now. Houston Roughnecks fall to 1-6 as they put up 12 points against the now 5-2 San Antonio Brahmas, who were able to edge them out with 15 points right here.
My goodness.
This game absolutely was a dumpster Pelican sighting of these 2 teams. Even though the Brahmas have been playing pretty well this year, it has been a rough outing this past week, or I would say the past 2 weeks for them. Quentin Dormady, 142 passing yards and an interception, along with John Lovett's 18 carries for 37 yards and a touchdown, 5 receptions, 28 yards. Huge contributions, right? Yeah. Landon Akers, 3 receptions, 72 yards. Jonche Kirkland, 3 receptions, 40 yards. But here's the biggest stat line of the day. Here it is, Cole Johnson. You knew it was coming, and you saw it in the slate when I sent it to you at 4 a.m. this morning.
Yeah.
Tyrone Alizé McDummy. 1 reception. Oh, last week we talked about how he had no targets. This week we're going to talk about how he was targeted. He had 1 reception for 0 yards. 1 target on the day. He is definitely starting to slide into that Tyrone Alizé McDummy category as what a Dallas Cowboy receiver would produce if they had that name right there. But the Brahmas defense, though.
Oh my gosh.
the Brahmas defense put up 6 sacks on the day. And that with the fumble recovery combined was what was the big part, along with the special teams, and why they got 15 points and was able to edge them by 3. Jared Guantanamo for the other side, 127 passing yards, comes back in after some weeks off. Reed Sinnett only 17 passing yards on the day. Justin Hall, 5 receptions, 69 yards. The Roughnecks running backs have been the story of the season for why they are what they are at 1-6. 82 rushing yards on 23 attempts, averaging very little per carry. With the Roughnecks defense putting up 2 sacks, an interception by Colby Richardson, and 3 fumble recoveries is what mainly kept them in this game right here to only lose by 3. Even with Tyrone Alizé McDummy and everything you put into perspective, what are your thoughts here on this game and how it played out for us?
Well, it is so typical that you actually put Alizé's why the heck he has a name like that? Alizé's stat line, because it basically was dumpster fire and Dustin Pelican worthy. Now, look, I think we are of the similar ilk. We don't mind defensive games. We don't mind defensive games. We don't mind low scoring games. It was competitive, obviously, but I think what we have to understand is that, well, the Roughnecks, like you pointed out with the rushing offense, it's just not all that great. It's not all that great. And the defense is good. They would be better if the offense was better. And I think that's what this game highlighted. I will take a defense holding, especially a 4-2 squad, which of course they now are 5-2. I'll take a 4-2 squad only getting 15 points. Your defense can hold into 15. My golden rule is, if a defense can hold an opposing offense to under 20 points, you should win the game. And if you don't, that's the offense's fault. And in this case, the Roughnecks offense is the reason why they lost this game, because the defense did what they were supposed to do. And hands credit to the Brahmas. They could have basically looked at the Roughnecks and say, well, we got this game. This opponent is easy. And they didn't. It was a knockdown drag out, but they were able to pull it out. So yeah, kudos to the Brahmas. They were just a little bit better and a little bit tougher than the Roughnecks. But the Roughnecks have to execute better on offense, and that is a must, because they can't keep doing this.
And they absolutely cannot. They absolutely cannot, because there's no way that they are going to, have a playoff run and get there in the next 3 weeks if they keep playing like this against dumpster Pelican teams. Because the Houston Roughnecks barely got that 1 win of the season. It should be the Renegades who have 2 wins. They should be 2-5 right now, minimum, based on the other outcomes of the games.
Right.
But Tony Reale, aka Sick Diggy, back in the house with Mosley was with Houston in 71 and 72, and Washington between 74 and 86. So he was there for the first Super Bowl.
Yeah, I figured he was. I figured he was in the league. I didn't know if he was with Washington by then, but okay.
But he was with your team, the old Oilers. There, so
yeah, he was with the old Oilers. Yeah, so that's cool.
And Mickey Delaney says, Mickey Delaney getting some more eyes on the product for us. Says he shared it. Thank you very much, Mick. We appreciate that very much. Here we go. This is on you. This is on you.
Oh, good Lord! All right.
The next two.
Okay.
Yeah.
The unhinged rants of Drew Willingham. I'm sorry. Let do this again. The unhinged rants of Drew Willingham are brought to you by Yuckmouth Dental Insurance. Either keep it minty fresh or keep it shut. And Wally Yeti beanies, the coldest beanies for all year long wear.
Yeah, I'm clipping that out. especially when you go back and see the facial expressions I was doing. I know it's gonna be fire. That was great. That was absolutely fire. But speaking of fire, though, we do finally get to talk about something that's fire with this next thing, and that being the game of the week. And for our game of the week here, Cole, we definitely had an interesting matchup here between two of the great teams in the UFL right now, and that being the St. Louis Battlehawks, who come into this game. I forgot to adjust the very bottom part of it, but they are now 5-2 after this loss. They are 5-1 coming into this game, but put up 26 points and lose by only 4 points to the undefeated Birmingham Stallions, who came into this game undefeated 6-0 and remain at such after this game right here. And, you know, I was so hyped when I hit you up yesterday or Saturday. I said, even before we got to Sunday, this was the game of the week.
This was the game of the week. I remember saying that.
Because of how exciting it was. I was at work, you know, at my full-time job. Luckily, we had some downtime at the time. I was able to pop it up on the computer and watch it while I was sitting back, eat fresh Subway sandwich is what I was having a great time on that day. And I was watching this game. And this is where my mood was in that moment. And Adrian Martinez is slinging the rock, Cole. 230 passing yards he put up on that day. 3 touchdowns, even got action on the ground with 7 carries for 60 yards. The Stallions running backs, 144 rushing yards on 26 attempts with a touchdown by CJ Marable. Absolutely strong. Yes, sir. With Kevin Austin Jr.'s contributions on receiving with 3 receptions, 59 yards and a touchdown. Marlon Williams contributes as well with 4 receptions for 41 yards and a touchdown. And don't forget about Deion Kane's 4 receptions for 29 yards and a touchdown. Round out Adrian Martinez's 3 passing touchdowns for the day. The Stallions defense, 2 sacks and an interception, that one being by A.J. Thomas. A.J. McCarron, though, on the other side, this is why I think that they stepped back a little bit. He can only get 161 passing yards on the day, a touchdown and an interception. And on the ground, he put up some numbers, 2 carries for 24 yards, but just wasn't quite enough to get it done. Jacob Sailors, though, 10 carries for 38 yards and 2 touchdowns and 4 receptions for 20 yards for a touchdown, contributes for all 3 of the major scores for the Battlehawks, but wasn't quite enough to get it done. The Battlehawks defense as well, 3 sacks with 2 fumble recoveries on the day. With this being the game of the week, would you say that this was more of the powerhouse showing of the Stallions, or did the Battlehawks just not quite live up to their hype on this past weekend?
I think the Battlehawks did live up to their end of the bargain, so to speak. I think what we saw and I think what we witnessed is normally when you have teams like in Stallions that they know how to put it together when they can put it together. Sometimes they need to have that test. Sometimes they need to see if they measure up against a team that is really talented, and we'll judge how they are from there. And I think what we saw was I couldn't say that the Stallions were dominant, but they executed beautifully. I will say that. I will take these stat lines and run with it. But I think what they had to understand is they cannot waste possessions. And if you do waste possessions against a team as talented as the Battlehawks, they could have walked out with an L instead of a W. But if you can develop that hunger and develop that will, that basically at the end of games, when it's 5 minutes left and on in the fourth quarter, and you really believe that you are the tougher, the stronger, and the more the man that endures the more of the two, then you can pull these games out. So I would say the Stallions proved they are probably a team that has the more stamina than anybody on the field. And I think that is a little more dangerous than being dominant, because sometimes you can have dominant performances. Just look at the Renegades. You can have a dominant performance, but if you take an L, you can also have a dud too. But the Stallions can prove they can skunk you and they can win close games.
I would definitely agree with that too. And, we talked about it last week, and it's been a topic on this show for several weeks now, even with Cool McCain and with Kyle Nash when they were in here too, talking about what team can beat this team right here and beat the Stallions. And is it possible? And we thought that the only team, I said at first it was going to be either the Defenders or the Battlehawks, and I was wrong about the Defenders. I eat the crow. I admit it. I was wrong about that team right there. But this other team, the Battlehawks, was the only thing that we thought that could resemble as close to a team that could take this away from the Stallions and having an undefeated season and potentially tri-peating, because they're the back-to-back USFL champions, and they're potentially going to win this year for the UFL league, or at least go undefeated. They may get upset in the playoffs, but this could have been a good test for the Battlehawks, because if these two teams meet up again in the UFL championship, the Battlehawks could have definitely seen enough to get an understanding on how to beat this team. They got close enough. They just ran out of time. When you look at how this game really breaks down, I mean, this past Saturday, it was a great matchup. A later game in the day, it was we have two games in a day on Saturday and Sunday, and it was the second game of the day. And when you look at the first quarter here, it wasn't really a whole lot of action. The Birmingham Stallions were only up 6-0 at the end of the first quarter, and they did so, by scoring a touchdown, but they couldn't convert, on the extra point, which is why they only had 6 points on the day. Then you go back to the second quarter, and that's when it started to get rolling a little bit. That's when both teams were really starting to sling it around. And at the end of the second quarter, the Stallions were up 17-14. It was still a really close game. This time only up by 3 points as opposed to 6 like they were in the first quarter. Starting off the second quarter, the Battlehawks got a field goal, only down by 3, followed by a Stallions field goal to take it up 9-3. Then you have the touchdown that they take on by the Battlehawks to get the lead at 11-9, and that's when I hit up Cole on Saturday. I was hyped. At work, all excited about this Battlehawks team having the lead over the Stallions and seeing something that we had not seen all year, which is the Stallions losing during a quarter, during at any point of the game. Stallions down by 2 at that point. Then the next possession, the Stallions take back the lead on a touchdown, go up 17-11, but then the Battlehawks get the field goal at the end of the second quarter with only 16 seconds left to only be down 17-14 at halftime. When you go through the third quarter, there wasn't much action going on except for the Stallions missed a field goal when they could have taken an extra 3-point lead to be up by 6. But instead, they were still up 17-14 with the Battlehawks punting on the next possession. And then after that, the Battlehawks scored a touchdown at the end of the third quarter with 1 minute and 24 seconds left of it to go up 20-17. Fourth quarter, that's where the action was really starting to unravel as, the Battlehawks have the lead going into this quarter. The Stallions are PO'd, don't want to lose this game. Then you see, after that, they score a touchdown with 8 minutes and 57 seconds left in the fourth quarter. They go up 23-20, that being the Stallions. Then after that, you have another touchdown by the Stallions that takes them up to 30-26. And after that, that's pretty much how it ends. So when you put it all in perspective there, Cole, that's the action that we saw in this matchup, which got us the 30-26 outcome. Mm-hmm. We've seen the Stallions team put up 30-plus points every single week, but I don't recall out of all 7 games, I'm pretty sure this is the closest game that they've had where they've only won by 4 points.
Yeah, and I think this is a good time for them to actually have this type of game where the defense has to say, okay, so we can't just roll our helmets on the field or roll our cleats on the field on the grass and say, well, they see the uniform and that's that. The opposing offense is going to lay down. The Battlehawks gave them a test. They gave them a run. But what I think the Stallions can check the box on is They were able to get that one stop that they needed because they got the lead, but they had the lead with time remaining. They were able to get that one stop to hold that lead. And I think that will do them so much good when we get to the playoffs, where they can actually say, okay, we know we can do when it's close and tight. Even though we can blow teams out, we also can hold teams when we need to. And that is a big time plus for any defense to hang their hat on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's definitely, like I was saying for a minute, it's if these two teams meet up again in the UFL championship, this is going to be another great contest for one, but for two, the Battlehawks might have the edge because they have seen this team up close, up front, this current team, and they came so close to beating them this past time. They just needed a little bit more time on the clock. And they may be able to work that knowledge into a great contest for a championship game for one, but an upset and a championship for themselves that they should have had last year.
Right. And I agree with you. I think the battle, this is a really strange game. I actually think, even though, yes, I know moral victories don't really count in professional sports. I understand that. But like you said, every team that has come against the Stallions this year, they have drawn nubs along with L's. You now have the Battlehawks, who they were able to score 26 points in this defense. And like you said, if you had like 61, 62, or 63 minutes of this game, we might be talking about a different outcome. And now, if they can, it's sort of akin in college football to when Lord. Pardon me, when Deshaun Watson led led Clemson, and they were going against Alabama in the national championships, and so the first one, it was close, but all the Tigers needed was one more possession. They would have won, but they just ran out of time. And then the very next year, they had that time, and they had that possession, and they eked out a dub with a pass with almost no time remaining to win it. I could see the Battlehawks and Stallions having that type of game in the championship, where they know what the Stallions can do. They feel as though they can hang with them. They have the confidence that they can. Now they just have to go out and prove on the field that they can actually, in a 60-minute ball game, be the better team. And so both teams, I think, can walk out with some sort of a W, with some sort of confidence boosted, and it's different types of boosting. But I agree with you. I think the Battlehawks probably end up having the bigger. Yeah, I think I really feel good about this moment of the two teams. I agree with you there.
And I hope it definitely pays dividends for them, going forward in the season. And because I mean, they've been teasing us the past 2 years with their production. They're really good, but then when it gets to the moments that we really need them to produce that, they choke. So we'll see how it pays off. But speaking of which, when it comes to freaking out like they have been, Six says, then again, like Chick, we can always freak out. Freak out.
Let's freak. So chic. Oh Lord. Okay. All that pressure. Get you down. No, my bad. Just come on down. No, my bad.
I think if that's the case, then they would take the. Come on now, is that total
surprise, motherfucker?
Sometimes if you're just going to freak out like that, you're going to need to
stop it. Get some help.
They had to take the L. I needed that laugh. That was funny.
Welcome to Mondays. Myself and Kyle are here for you to bring you the shenanigans and football all wrapped up in one. And with that being said, we have to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, it's probably just going to be me for a little bit, but we'll see Cole return here in a little bit. Got the gridiron scoop to discuss. I'll see you guys here on the other side of our commercial break for that discussion.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network proudly presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson, live every weekday morning beginning April 29th at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are here to recap the UFL Week 7, the Undefeated Stallions turn back the Battlehawks upset attempt. Myself and Cole Johnson are here with you for the next hour or so to break it down with you one way or another when it comes to hard-hitting gridiron action. And we will see Cole Johnson back here momentarily as he has to step away for a few minutes, but he will be back to break it down with you and I, the football enthusiast of the world. And yes, I'm doing my best to bring in the hype and get excited about the UFL and the fact that my man Wazel Hefe is in the house. Welcome back to the program there, sir. Hope to get up with you for another in or out sports debate here really soon. And speaking of which, while we have a few minutes before Cole gets back, you can see episode 107 tonight, 9:05 p.m. Eastern time on SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Kyle Nash and I brought the show back last week with episode 106. And next week, 108 will be here. And it will be here every single week going forward. In or out sports debate, you can see it tonight, 9:05 p.m. Eastern time. And those of you who are watching who have been guest panelists on it on the past, look forward to bringing you back here very soon for some more action where we go head to head and debate the topics and the fans decide who wins. Who wins? You decide. On the In or Out sports debate brought to you by SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. And welcome back to Total Football Talk, though, where we are here to talk about football action. In the past segment, Cole and I broke down the 4 games from this past weekend, that being the Renegades and the Showboats, the Panthers and the Defenders, the Brahmas and the Roughnecks, and the Battlehawks and the Stallions. Now we have to take this into the Gridiron Scoop, talk about what we have on our slate for this upcoming part of the show. Now, here with our gridiron scoop. We got some things to talk about, some Mother's Day stuff to talk about, and some rookies in the NFL, and one in particular being the Kool-Aid Man. Yes, we have an NFL rookie who has the nickname of being the Kool-Aid Man. His name being Kool-Aid McKinstry. And the NFL rookie himself bought a Mercedes-Benz SUV for his mother this past weekend. And with that being said, was this a thoughtful Mother's Day gift or a poor display of management by the Kool-Aid Man? Think about it this way. If you're in the NFL, you just get drafted, you get, a decent amount of change in your pocket from a signing bonus. And you think about the people that got you to that point. Depending on the monetary value of what you have in your pocket and the monetary value of what you're purchasing, it makes sense one way or another depending on what you're looking at. And in this case, it does to me make sense. Did she need a Mercedes-Benz SUV? Maybe the style and the price tag, maybe not. But maybe mom did need a new car. Mom drove him around from practice to practice to practice, more than likely to school, to whatever events that he was doing. He was growing up. He wanted to look out for his mom. I don't have a problem with what he did to look out for her and buying her an SUV. She probably needed it. She probably needed a new car. And, he's got a good amount of change in his pocket at this point. He wants to look out for his mom. He's a highly touted player. He has the nickname of being the Kool-Aid Man. All right. When you have a name of being the Kool-Aid Man and you are a player, you're going to get some extra money. You're going to get some marketing opportunities out here in these streets and in these streams. You're going to make some money. All right. So with this money, he's going to buy his mom a car. He's going to buy his mom probably a little bit more than a car, probably a house, probably some clothes, maybe a nice old ring, a necklace. Who knows? I don't know. I don't hang out with the man. I don't know his financial history. What I do know is he's got a cool name, that being the Kool-Aid Man. And that, in fact, definitely pays dividends. He's going to take that money and run, whether he's good at this job or not. Hopefully he is good, because I want to see somebody with the name the Kool-Aid Man popping up on my screen in the NFL while I'm watching this on Sunday, so that way when we're back here the following Monday, we have something to talk about and talk about the Kool-Aid Man and his action in the game from the previous weekend, and not just him buying a car for his mom. Although I support his message of looking out for those that looked out for him, because he wouldn't be where he is without his mom looking out for him for all those years, those first early years of changing his Huggies and cleaning the crap out of them, putting fresh ones on and sending him on his way to where he started walking, started talking, and started taking over the gridiron. When you put all that in perspective, you got to give the man his credit, because he did the right thing here. He got his mom a new car. Did it have to be a Mercedes-Benz SUV? No. But the fact that it is makes it so much cooler. We're starting this out hot, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what you guys got to talk about here in the chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. We got Ike in the house saying, "What's up, fellas?" Even saying, "What up, Diggy?" The two of them go back and forth in the chat at times. Along with, did you guys start talking about Rashee Rice yet? No, we have not. I'm doing my best to push that back as far as I can, as I want to talk about that with Cole when he gets back in. But when it comes to that topic, we are going to be dropping down some hammers when it comes to the Rashee Rice topic. Yes, sir. Sick Diggy says, "Let me re-edit that ad. Hold on." Oh, no. This is going to be great. This is going to be very great. Wazel Hefe again saying, "Hello, gentlemen." I had to bring him back up there again. Total Football Talk. Oh boy, says the Playmaker's blog, and Playmaker himself joining in here. And Playmaker, we got to get you on an episode of the In or Out Sports Debate at some point, because again, you can see episode 107 tonight at 9:05 p.m. Eastern time. One of these Mondays, except for Memorial Day, because I got to work that day, unfortunately. But for me and my career, it actually pays me pretty well to work holidays, so I'm going to work that day, if you know what I'm saying. But the following Monday, we might have to talk some things. I'll get up with you in the chat. We'll have to figure some things out, my man. Get you on the In or Out Sports Debate. I'm going to be a guest 420 as well. Okay. Oh, on the In or Out Sports Debate. So when we get to episode 420, I'm already going to keep that mark down. It's going to be a while. We're not going to get to episode 420 this year. But when we do, I'll have to make sure that you are the guest on that one. Uh-oh. Here we go. Breaking news. Contrary to the rumors, Peanut Butter and Jealous is not releasing a peanut butter and black licorice. That's just foul, as it is nasty. What is wrong with some people? What is wrong with some people?
Let me talk to you.
What's wrong with some people is there are people out there that really like licorice stick, and the fact that that brand did not that line item did not get rolled out is a good reason. There's a good reason that it didn't get rolled out, and we're not going to let it roll out anywhere out here on these streams or these streets. What's good at Ike doesn't give a right here on Total Football Talk. We have to edit, but on D Willy in the evening on Sundays, I will say his name. I might even say it on the In or Out Sports Debate tonight. Who knows if he shows up? But on Total Football Talk, because we're preparing to take this show to some point to the radio airwaves, I'm not going to say your last three letters of your name. Ike doesn't give a. That's what we're going to say here on Total Football Talk. Now, let's take it to our next topic after we've gone through the comments for the first topic of this segment. So talking next, longtime NFL executive A.J. Smith dead at 75 after a long battle with cancer. He's a longtime executive of the NFL, primarily with the Chargers. He was a general manager, right? From the early 2000s to, I want to say, like 2012. I'm looking it up right now. 2001 and 2002, he was director of pro personnel for the Chargers and was elevated to general manager in 2003 and remained in that position until 2012. But was a long-time executive before that, spending time with the Buffalo Bills from 89 to 92 and 93 to 2000, working his way up from assistant director of college scouting to director of pro personnel, meaning he was there for the 4 straight trips to the Super Bowl when the Buffalo Bills lost all 4 Super Bowls. But he didn't have like full hands on how they were setting up their roster or, how they were being active in free agency and in the draft. He was pretty much handling scouting and researching the players to bring in. He wasn't the one making the calls. But by the time he got to the Chargers, though, and especially about 2003, he was the guy for the next 10 years. And, was a part of a team that, drafted Phillip Rivers and, had the successes that they did with LaDainian Tomlinson, even though LT and Drew Brees came in before he took over as general manager in 2003. He was there when they drafted Drew Brees, but that was when he was a little bit more behind the scenes as the director of pro personnel and the assistant general manager. He wasn't making the full calls, but he was still part of those early on decisions to bring in LT and Drew Brees. Was the one that traded Drew Brees. Or no, Drew Brees signed with the Saints because he was a free agent after that year. He decided not to bring back Drew Brees. So he was a part of some big moves that had a lot to do with the success, and some could argue the downfall of the Chargers, because there was a while during the 2000s when you had Marty Schottenheimer as the coach, when LT had that one historic season putting up and setting the touchdown record and doing phenomenal things in the background. And I still forever will love those Charger blue jerseys, okay? I always said the Commanders were my number one team and my NFC team, but the Chargers were my AFC team, primarily for the jerseys back in the day. And I was enjoying watching this team during the 2000s, and a team that A.J. Smith contributed to building. So when you look at this right here and you think of this man, he's 75 years old. He was in his 50s when he put this team together. He was, well, if you look at it now, he was like, yeah, he was pretty much in his 50s when he went to the Chargers. So throughout his 50s, he did some great things building the Chargers, but also in some ways didn't build them enough because they were either on the cusp of getting to the big game and just couldn't quite get there. And you could argue that they were a piece or two away on both sides of the ball, on offense and defense, that kept them from getting over the hump. And Marty Schottenheimer, of course, deserved better, because I believe Marty Schottenheimer was a great coach. And especially you look at what he did that one year in Washington and kind of got scapegoated and out after 1 year. He deserved better. Got that better in San Diego, but just didn't quite have enough pieces around him. The worst move I think that he made, and that being A.J. Smith, was bringing in Norv Turner, because Norv Turner, after Schottenheimer, completely screwed the pooch, and it didn't really work out. So to me, you could argue on one hand that he made some great moves for the Chargers, but then on the other hand, made some equally as balanced as bad moves for the team as well in their future. I think it's going to be kind of a give and take with that to dictate what his legacy was in the NFL. However, I don't want to take anything away from the man's accomplishments because he still did something that a lot of us would dream to be a part of. Be a general manager, be in charge of the player personnel and who a team has to, as far as players, to represent that franchise. So with that being said, for him to get to that great height and work it to that level in professional sports, gotta give it to the man. His legacy is going to be that he worked his tail off and deserved to be where he's at. The other end of the legacy would be that he make the greatest decisions while in office. That's for you to decide. Let me know here in the comments. Let's see what you guys are saying in those comments before we move on to the next topic. Trust, there's plenty of Swedes that love licorice. That is just nasty. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, bro. I'm just not feeling it out here in these streets or in these streams. It's just not something that I want to mess around with today. What's good at Playmakers Blog and Stuck in My Mind podcast? How y'all doing? Says Sick Diggy, a.k.a. the Tony Reality of my programs, who hooks us up with the fact checks from time to time. And especially earlier with Mark Mosley, the kicker. That was definitely appreciated. Are you lactose intolerant? Are you not a fan of dairy? Then we've got the solution for you. Bron Dairy, all organic and made 100% from seal milk. I'm going to get Cole to reread that when he joins back in. That's definitely going to be a great one for him, and he'll have fun with that. Bron Dairy. It's seal clapping good. Trust me, Drew Willingham. There's plenty of Swedes that love licorice. Good grief. I'm still having a hard time believing it, man. Like, really, I'm just saying, I'm not a fan of it. Their taste buds must be different on that side. You tell me. You're the one that lives closer to that action than me. So I can only tell you from what I've read in a history book or seen on the TV or on YouTube or something. Like, I'm just not picking it up. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a Twizzler eating mother father. Okay. It's not something that I want to do out here in these streets. Looks like still being the hardest working content creator in all the land, says Playmaker. And we definitely appreciate you because you bring us some great action within the basketball, football, and entertainment realm with professional wrestling that we will see tonight at 8 o'clock on Monday Night Raw. And you can see the Playmakers blog. Him and Cool McCain have the Monarchs of Wrestling. I believe it comes on at 6 o'clock. You can see it right after this show goes off the air because they'll be talking some action for tonight's Monday Night Raw. We'll be talking what we saw last week after their show on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. I've been on there once, hope to be on there again, talk a little bit more action in the professional wrestling realm, and hopefully have a great time again like I did the previous time because they definitely know what they're talking about out here in these streams. And always, guys, subscribe now and never miss out on new content. Whether you're watching this on the COMI Media Network or you're watching this on SIRTOBA Media's channels, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and please share. Hook us up out here in these streams. We're trying to build one show at a time, one stream at a time, one subscriber at a time. And it all takes you, the people. And we appreciate you all out there for doing what you do by checking us out here in these streams. Let's move on to our next topic that we have here. And with that being said, let's talk about after 7 weeks of leading the Birmingham Stallions to an undefeated record in the UFL, quarterback Adrian Martinez remains the front runner for league MVP. Is there anyone out there that can surpass him with 3 weeks left in the regular season? And Cole and I were talking about this a little bit earlier with the Michigan Panthers game and with what Jake Bates has been doing. And then I talked about how, we had the game of the week with the Birmingham Stallions and the St. Louis Battlehawks and how A.J. McCarron's been up there with Adrian Martinez throughout this season as the league MVP, the front runners for it. And for a while, I was kind of taking a little bit away from Adrian Martinez because, one, he has not played every game. And two, they started the season out with 2 quarterbacks set like they had last year in Birmingham, where you had Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez rotating in and out. He hasn't been playing every single week like McCarron has, okay? McCarron's been playing every single week, has been up there in the top 3 in the passing statistics along with you got to say Luis Perez. And for a while, through the first month, it was Chase Garbers of the Brahmas. But ever since he got hurt, Quentin Dormady went in. You could say that Adrian Martinez has probably climbed up to 3 with the way he's been putting up numbers, both passing and on the ground. So to me, after 7 weeks, things have gone back and forth between those players that we were talking about. You've got, I would say right now on the top of the chart, because of what happened between the Battlehawks and the Stallions this past weekend, I probably would give Adrian Martinez the edge over AJ McCarron. I would say AJ McCarron would probably be 3. You have Adrian Martinez battling it out for number 1, but the number 1 person that I think that I would have to put at the top of the MVP selection after 7 weeks, remember, we still have 3 more weeks left of the regular season, I would say we got to look at Jake Bates. And Cole brought up a huge point earlier about how this team is pretty much built around Jake Bates's leg and how it determines games. Without Jake Bates, this Michigan Panthers team would not have the record that they have right now. This Michigan Panthers team would not be at 5-2 and beating a team like the DC Defenders, who almost won the XFL championship last week. Okay. So putting all this perspective and thinking about the fact that, 1, Adrian Martinez is part of a team that is undefeated, but again, you have Matt Corral, who was rotating in and out with him, pardon the pun, for the starting quarterback position / playing duty of 1 and 2, 1A, 1B throughout the games for the first month of the season. It wasn't really till the past few weeks that we saw Adrian Martinez starting and finishing a game and being the guy from start to finish. So with that being said, even though he hasn't played as much as McCarron, his stats are still up there with McCarron's for 1, and has been putting up solid numbers when he has been playing throughout the year. Hasn't really been throwing picks and turning the ball over. You have to keep him above McCarron for that. And even though there has been a 1-2 punch at quarterback, other teams have done it in the UFL and have not had success. The Birmingham Stallions have. And Adrian Martinez's skill set has definitely played a big part in that. And the fact that he's been able to convert from that to now being the starter and playing the entire game, slinging 3 touchdowns in the game, and leading a team to a victory, I got to put him up there in the top 3 now, but not at 1. Jake Bates, 60-plus yard field goals on multiple attempts. That leg, demonstrating that it should be in the NFL, that the Vikings would be stupid to not be going after him, because the Vikings have had dumpster Pelican field goal kickers since 98 when Anderson was missing them in the playoffs, and took that 15-1 team that should have won the Super Bowl out of the equation in the NFC Championship when the Falcons narrowly edged them because said Anderson missed the kick. And you look 30 years later almost, and they have not had much success at the kicking department. Jake Bates would be huge for them, especially now with Kirk Cousins gone. You got J.J. McCarthy, and you're trying to figure out what in the father you're going to do over there, especially on special teams. I'm going to tell you, you need to go after him, even though the Detroit Lions are probably going to make a bigger push. And it would be a bigger story if the Lions got him, because 1, he plays in Detroit, Michigan for the UFL in the UFL league. 2, he go from the one professional team in Michigan to the big professional football team in Michigan, being the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions were on the cusp of upsetting teams last year and getting to the Super Bowl and making some noise. So what if the Lions get Jake Bates after he's the UFL MVP and they win the Super Bowl in the next year or 2, because they're building a great squad on all 3 phases of their team between offense, defense, and special teams? How great would that be? And it would not be a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
If it happened, it wouldn't, because they've been talking about it in the media. And I'm telling you right now, it would not be a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
Absolutely. And teams out there that pass up on Jake Bates this offseason, they themselves in the general manager department are taking the oh yeah, we took it there. Damn! Yes, sir.
Acknowledge me.
That's how it is out here in these streams when it comes to that. I think Jake Bates is the UFL MVP as of right now through 7 weeks. Cole does too. What do you think? Let us know out here in these comments. Playmaker says Jared Goff has reset the QB market 4 years, $212 million with $170 million guaranteed. Now that is
Surprise, motherfucker.
that is a total surprise, mother. So with that being said, please
Oh, my brother, testify.
let them know out here what you think when it comes to that. And I know that he's happy because, Jared Goff, being a former Ram, at least, is making the Rams look good as far as what they drafted. Like they had great eyes on a quarterback that, he couldn't quite get over the hump in LA. I mean, he did get the Rams to a Super Bowl. He was part of a team that led them there, but wasn't part of a team that led them to victory. So I know Playmaker, even though it's kind of bittersweet, you kind of have to enjoy seeing him doing the things he's doing in Detroit. It would be nice to see him get a ring for a team that, one, has not won a Super Bowl yet, but two, seeing this money pay dividends, because that's a pretty big contract, but that definitely does reset the market. Cool McCain in the house says the following is technical difficulties, but
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
facts, bro. But hey, when it comes to that, nobody cares. We're having technical difficulties out here. We're just having fun out here in these streams. D Willy, my BIB, Brothers in Broadcasting. Absolutely. And Cool McCain, I was talking about it earlier. Because the Inter-Out Sports Debate is back on Mondays at 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time. I know it's during Monday Night Raw, but hopefully we can get you back on there at some point in the near future. Talk some sports on the In or Out Sports Debate. But ladies and gentlemen, let's take this to our next topic that we have in the Gridiron Scoop and keep on rocking and rolling. So with talking about the UFL and talking about the Kool-Aid man, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and buying his mama SU fever Mother's Day and the unfortunate passing of AJ Smith, let's go ahead and move this on to some teams that we would like to see play on Christmas Day. And, the NFL is about to be releasing their schedule here in the next day or so. I believe it's Wednesday that they release their new schedule. And when we see this new schedule, we're going to be seeing some action. And, well, we won't be seeing any action from looking at the schedule, but we'll be seeing some things that we'll be excited about when it comes to potential matchups that we're going to see at potential times. And one of these things that had me thinking about teams that we could see on Christmas Day, right? You have to get excited about not only Thanksgiving, right? But this year, the way the scheduling falls, we're going to have a Christmas Day game, at least one. And there's some teams that I was thinking about that come to mind that would be great matchups for the Christmas Day. And there's 5 of them in mind that actually come to me. And the first one being the Ravens and the Chargers. If the Ravens and the Chargers played on Christmas Day, especially if the Chargers live up to the hype throughout the 2024 season that we've had throughout this past offseason, with Jim Harbaugh and the pieces that they've acquired, and hopefully it helps Justin Herbert become the quarterback that everybody said he was going to be when he was drafted to the Chargers, not long ago. Jim Harbaugh doing what he did with the Michigan Wolverines, being a former NFL quarterback, understands what it takes to prepare and do the things to have the positive results in the game. Because was he a Hall of Fame quarterback? No. But was he a journeyman, pretty solid quarterback? Yes, he was, and had some great moments in the NFL. He did play with some bad teams, like the Colts team that went, I think, 3-13, bad enough to get Peyton Manning the next year in '98. But that wasn't all Jim Harbaugh's fault. He had dumpster Pelicans around him, because that next year when Peyton Manning came in '98, I think they had the same record, 3-13, or it was at least 3-13 then. It could have been worse at 2-14 for all I know. But Tony Reale, Sick Diggy, let me know. What was the Indianapolis Colts record in 1997 out here in the comments? So that way I know about Jim Harbaugh, because I cannot think of it all right here in this moment. Doing the best I can, but I'm here. Telling you that Jim Harbaugh is not the reason why the Colts sucked that bad in 97. What I can tell you right now is this game right here being led by Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines for the Chargers. And then you have the other sideline that has the other Harbaugh brother, John Harbaugh. The two of them faced off in the Super Bowl over a decade ago between the Ravens and the 49ers, and we all know how that panned out. So right here, right now, it would be sweet to have that kind of rematch, even though Jim is coaching a different team. But, on paper, could be a better team than what he had back then in San Francisco. I think San Francisco now is better than what Jim Harbaugh had him back with at that point. But Chargers are arguably better than what that team was back then, in my opinion. The next teams that I would want to see play on Christmas Day, if we couldn't get that, I would say the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Between if Aaron Rodgers is actually healthy at that point, which he should be, and then you have Russell Wilson. If he listens to the hype, you got that going on. Or Justin Fields if it doesn't work out with Russell Wilson. And if Justin Fields can pan out, you got some options over there at quarterback in Pittsburgh. And it might be a pretty solid matchup to watch on Christmas Day, especially those of you who have been fans of the Jets and they haven't been playing all that great for some time. Like it comes to mind, Ryan McCarthy is like one of the diehard Jets fans that I know, personally know, that can tell you that he has definitely had some hard times watching this team over the years. But if he has a healthy Aaron Rodgers, a healthy squad, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are a healthy squad at that point and competitive, and it could be a potential competitive great game on Christmas Day, I think he'd want to watch that game too. Would enjoy watching this team go against another team that's fairly competitive. The one thing to watch for during this season in Pittsburgh is an offensive coordinator. You know who I'm talking about. Oh, Artie. Artie from the Atlanta Falcons is the coach now, and he shaved off his mustache, and he thinks he's so great now, and they're going to do great things. Well, Artie Smith, I don't know if just shaving your mustache makes you better, because I can tell you right now, with this beard and the mustache, if I shaved it off, I might not look great without it. But I'll still perform the same. I will still do the same I will out here. So you shaving your mustache doesn't mean you're not going to suck anymore. And that's what I have to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they may have made a mistake with that. But if they can overcome old Artie and the mustacheless Smith, I think they'll be okay. We'll have to see when it comes to that. The next game that I would say, and this is going to make Cool McCain very, very, very happy, as well as Waz El Jefe, because I'm not up here saying they're going to go 1-7 again. We haven't even gotten to the predictions yet, but I'm pretty sure based on the way this team has made some moves this offseason, I'm not going to be predicting them to go 1-7. So you can reel back in your Mr. Disrespectful comments. Still love you, brother. But yes, they deserved to go 1-7 last year, but they didn't. They went 1-5, and it's okay. And my team took the major. However, we've overcome that. Our friendship has grown. We've bonded even more, and now everything is still okay. Yes, we're having fun out here in these streams, having a great time. But I would say these two teams that deserve to have a game on Christmas Day, if they continue to improve, will be the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New York Giants. I think that would be another good game we could watch on Christmas Day. And that goes to show and prove to you that I ain't no homer, bro. Just because I'm a Commanders fan doesn't mean I'm not going to tell you straight up what we should be watching out here in these streets and these streams and these TVs. And I'm going to tell you that we should be watching the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants on Christmas Day is my third choice. I didn't make them my first choice. No, I did not. But I sure as hell didn't make them my last choice either. I made them a good choice. I gave them not 5, not 4, but 3 on the list. And that being the Eagles and the Giants. Let's see them on Christmas Day, y'all. Let's see all 5 games that I have on my list on Christmas Day. It's not possible, but it would be amazing if we could. Las Vegas Raiders and the New Orleans Saints is my choice for the next one. And we've already got the Derek Carr, David Carr brother, Derek Carr, David, Derek, whatever you want to call him, but it's Derek. David was the older one. But Derek is the one that went from one team to another. Went from one dumpster Pelican team to one that's not trying to be so much of a dumpster Pelican team, that being the New Orleans Saints. But since Drew Brees has rolled out, unfortunately, they have been displaying their dumpster Pelicanisms from one week to another. And Derek Carr definitely was a dumpster Pelican quarterback last year, in my opinion. Flashes, yes, at some points. But overall, rocking the Carr name, rocking the Carr legacy, that be the dumpster Pelican at times. That's what we saw. And now you're going to play against a Las Vegas Raiders team that has retooled in some departments, retained their interim head coach and Antonio Pierce, who has a great attitude and is a great leader and was when he played the game as well, which is why he has a Super Bowl victory, to his credit. Also formerly played with Washington, and Washington screwed the pooch by letting him go. But at the same time, he may not have become what he was had he not gone to New York. So I give that credit to Tom Coughlin as well and the staff over there in New York. But when it comes to AP and what he's doing in Las Vegas, I think there's a really good chance that when we see these two teams play it out, it's going to be a close game. With Allen on the other side doing what he's doing with coaching with the Saints, he's making some decent moves over there too. This team's on the come up. But I think the Las Vegas Raiders have a little bit more of the edge here. They're a little bit more hungrier to do so. When you think about everything they've been through since John Gruden was we already know about that situation, how he rolled out and how things changed. You brought in Josh McDummy, of all people, to be your head coach. And we already know how things panned out with that one. He absolutely sucked. And people who were sitting up on their high horse saying, this was a great move to make there, Mr. Davis.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
That's what I would say to him in this moment. Hell no, this was not the greatest move to make, bringing in Josh McDummy. Whoever suggested that move should.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
Facts. Like, come on now, man. What is going on out here in these streets when you're bringing in Josh McDummy, who didn't make the greatest decisions in Denver, and you already have the debacle of that, and you got to this point. And now things have changed. We are now in the present. It is not like it was back when we had the John Gruden, Josh McDummy era. AP proved last year that he has what it takes to take bull by the horns and take care of this unit right here. And he did. And that's why he got the opportunity that he did. And I think that if these two teams played against each other, it would be, the AP-led Las Vegas Raiders potentially against a Derek Carr team that is okay at the time. But, it'll be a little bit of a humbling piece to Derek Carr to say, hey, this team, is better without you. And you going somewhere else doesn't mean that you're as good as you say you are. This could be the humbling moment that Derek Carr needs. The entire Carr family needs when it comes to their status in the NFL. And lastly, we're going to talk about one more thing in the Gridiron Scoop, and that being the previous unreported SMU incident could impact NFL discipline on Rashee Rice. How do you see this process working out for the star wide receiver, and how will this impact the Chiefs this upcoming season? Think about that for a second, you guys, and let me know here in the comments. And I will get to that after I address some comments here in the chat. As Cool McCain is saying, say less, when we were talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, and a good one, a good choice. Brother versus brother. Yes, when you have the Eagles and the Giants facing off on Christmas Day. That would be one of my choices for Christmas Day games. If we could only have two, I would pick that as one of my two. We do have two more games. There was one more game I've missed. I gave you guys 4 games. There was one more game that I do need to add to that before we move to that Rashee Rice topic, and I'll tell you. And then you'll probably call me a homer after that. But this being a Sick Diggy statement saying the 97 Colts were 3-13 that season, so I was right. In the next season, they were 3-13, so 97 and 98. Because I remember Peyton Manning was 3-13 in 98 and also set the interceptions record. He set the rookie touchdown passing record and the overall, no matter how old you were, interception record for that year. I don't think that's been broken yet either. So he wants somebody to break it though, but it hasn't. Some people need their facial hair. Some men need their mustaches. says Sick Diggy. Hey, it is what it is out here in these streets. Interesting, says Cool McCain. And should have multiple games on Christmas Day. Yes. I don't think it'll be the amount 5 that I was picking, but there should be a few. Because again, I said the Ravens, the Chargers, the Jets, the Steelers, the Eagles, the Giants, the Raiders, and the Saints. And there was one more that I missed out on from my list. And you'll probably say, why do you want to see this? And the reason why is if both of these two quarterbacks are starting at this point, they would be the 1 and 2 of the draft from this past year, and that would be the Chicago Bears taking on the Washington Commanders. You would have Caleb Williams taking on a team that he used to. Well, I don't know once you go to the NFL if you stop becoming fans of teams or not. I don't know how that works, but he grew up in the DC area, was a fan of the Washington team, taking on his former childhood favorite team as the number 1 pick in Chicago. You got Roma Dunze if things work out over there with him, but we'll get to that a little bit more in a little bit as your star wide receiver pick. You got some other pieces that you made during this offseason. And then you brought in Montez Sweat last year with the trade from the Commanders. It kind of screwed the Commanders a little bit as far as the value they were compensated with for Montez Sweat. But he'll fit well better with the Chicago Bears, and hopefully the Commanders can get things rolling this upcoming season. I will break that down more on the Commanders Gridiron Report next Tuesday, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday, taking this week off from that with everything that's going on out here in these streets and these streams. But yes, the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders, I feel like would be if you had to go with a number 5 pick, right? If I had to go with 2 picks for the games for Chicago for the Christmas Day, I would not be picking this as one of those 2 games. No, I would say probably the Ravens and the Chargers and the Eagles and the Giants would be my 2 games that I would pick, because I feel like the Eagles and the Giants are going to be the top 2 teams of the division this year. I was not saying that last year. I think Daniel Jones, being on his last leg, he's going to have the fire lit underneath of his rear end enough to where he's going to have to play to his career best at this point. If not, he's done in the NFL, I think, at least the starting quarterback. He may be done altogether, may have to go to the UFL to reboot his career if he doesn't. And I think he's going to play like his career is on the line this year. And they've made some moves to help him out a little bit. Not as much as the Eagles did by bringing in Saquon Barkley and re-signing their top 2 wide receivers and making some moves in the draft to kind of, fill the gaps from the pieces they lost during free agency and retirements. But I feel like with their young core and what they did in the draft, I feel like they've done enough to where they can be competitive and be better than the Cowboys. Still think the Eagles are going to take the division, but I think that the Giants can at least be competitive enough to where they'll be in the discussion for the wild card. If they don't get the wild card this year, I really think Daniel Jones is out of there, especially with how they started last year being 1 and 5 to start the previous year and how he's played underwhelmingly since being drafted in the NFL. So he's had 1 solid year out of his years, but he needs to prove it a little bit more. And I think the bright lights and being on Christmas Day would be, if he's healthy and if that team's healthy, would be a great stage for him to showcase whether he's ready to take this to another level or not. So you let me know here in the comments whether you agree or disagree with me out here in these streams. And again, we were talking about the Rashee Rice situation. The previous unreported SMU incident could impact NFL discipline on Rashee Rice. How do you see this process working out for the star wide receiver, and how will this impact the Chiefs this upcoming season? This is something I was hoping, to talk about with Cole, but unfortunately, he is not back from his work obligation yet, which, talk with me, I totally get all that. You got a lot going on, so everything's all good with that. But maybe if he jumps in with enough time left in the show, we can revisit it with him and kind of do a recap with some of these questions and kind of do like a 2-minute drill on his answers. That'd be a good kind of impromptu way to get it, but he will be back at some point before the show ends. Other than that, Rashee Rice, though, I think that the SMU incident, he can't be like, I don't think he's going to be punished for that, right? Because of how long ago it happened, and it was before he came into the NFL. However, I think that the pattern from his behavior from college to, of course, the most recent stuff that he's been doing with the rental cars and all this other stuff, whether he was in the car or not, or whatever you want to break it down as, it's going to impact to show a timeline of behavior that hasn't improved, that you need some type of remediation. You need some type of intervention one way or another. Maybe you're not on drugs, but your behavior is not it's erratic. It's not stable. It's not balanced, and it's not a great representation of their franchise and their brand of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. And, what this team has accomplished together, Andy Reid's sons, had issues around the time he was with Philly. And then once he left Philly, for the most part, their sons were on, pretty, he had everything in check until the one son got a DUI not too long ago. He also had one pass away, all this other stuff. But as far as besides that, this team overall has been a pretty solid core team, and they haven't really gotten in trouble out the field. Of course, you got Travis Kelce, who's a personality who likes to have fun, and with everybody knows what he's doing now with dating Tay-Tay, but he's behaved, considering the stage he's on with his character and his personality. But other than that, this is the first big situation where you have a team that has a player that's really acting out. And this team has had success that they have had over the past 5 years or so since they started winning Super Bowls. So looking at this as a whole, I think that he's going to get the hammer dropped on him a little bit. There has to be some type of display of consequences here for Rashee Rice, because you've been getting away with some immature behavior for a while. You've been on the biggest stage now as being a rookie wide receiver and winning a Super Bowl, and you come in, you win the Super Bowl, you start your celebration, and your offseason really just gets started. And you don't have much of one anyway, because all of the mini camps and training camps and OTAs and preseason and everything leading up to the season. You get a short window for a break. And I guess you try to live up an entire year of a time off in one day or something. And you do what you do. And the crazy thing about today, besides us talking out here on these streams, my face in the camera at my home talking with you, there's cameras everywhere out there. You go for a walk, you're pretty much being recorded, whether it's a Ring doorbell or a drone camera or the government and wherever hidden cameras are out there, especially if you're in heavily populated cities. If you're out there in rural areas out there in the country, there's probably some spots you can still get away with, not having to have a camera on you when you go for a walk type of deal. But you got to be mindful for what you're doing out here in these streets. You, as a public figure, and you might not think you are, but you're a public figure when you're a professional athlete, and young kids are looking up to you because they want to be you at some point. They want to be receiving passes and scoring touchdowns in the Super Bowl, especially at a very early age like you did. And look at what you're doing. You're being a poor role model for those kids and doing things like you're doing. They're going to drop the hammer on you. Is it going to be like Ray Rice with what he did? No, because it's a totally different situation. And, even though they share the same last name, he's not going to get the same type of punishment. He needs to get it in check, though. He needs to stay in his lane. As Lamar Ball famously was bringing up not too long ago with the Ball brothers and him being the father of them and everything going on with basketball and people adopting it, especially Mickey Delaney out here in these streams saying, stay in your lane. This man needs to stay in his lane. They could easily slot somebody in and replace Rashee Rice if he was gone for forever. Like, I don't think Rashee Rice is going to be gone forever. I do see him serving at minimum like a 3-game suspension at minimum. I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit more, though, because they're going to take the SMU stuff into account. They're going to say this guy needs some type of counseling one way or another, and more so behavioral counseling, like whether it's an emotional intelligence thing or something. Rashee Rice has definitely put himself in a bad spot. And if he doesn't get things together real soon, he's going to be missing out on some more greatness from the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs were great without Rashee Rice, and they're going to be fine without him if he can no longer play with the team. And I am very fortunate enough to welcome back my co-host, Kyle Johnson.
I have the timing when you're talking about Rashee Rice. Lord have mercy.
So you got it right at the right time with this. And, I talked about, the previous unreported SMU incident could impact the NFL discipline on Rashee Rice. And how do you see this process working out for the star wide receiver? Do you think it'll impact the Chiefs this upcoming season?
I actually don't think it will. And the reason why I say that, I get it. He ended up being productive wise the number one wide receiver for that last year. So I understand it when I say no, it's not because I'm a Chiefs fan, and it's not because I think that little of Rashee Rice, the talent on the field. I just think that highly of, as Cool McCain would say, the Red Walrus, and how he could coach up players, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And when I saw that they drafted Xavier Worthy, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a case of the rich getting richer. So you have a Rashee Rice want to play Fast and the Furious in Dallas, and that was in March. And then in April, they find a guy who's faster. They find a guy who probably could rival Tyreek Hill in stretching the field, because that really was the only thing that the Chiefs now was missing, is that guy that could stretch the field. And now you got the burner. All he needs to do is have hands, and then you'll start to see that Chiefs offense resemble what it was 5 years ago. And to me, that is scary. So I say it from that aspect. I don't think they'll miss Rice. Now, will they miss having an extra wide receiver on the team? Of course. That's talent that's going to be gone. But in terms of how the team could actually roll, I don't think they'll miss him that much.
And we're pretty much on the same page with that. And Cool McCain believes he should definitely miss, multiple games. And we do have a request for an ad read for you. And I will click the one, and then once you finish reading the one, I will click the second one for it to follow. Are you ready?
Yes. Roll the ad.
I know.
Are you lactose intolerant? Are you not a fan of dairy? Then we got the solution for you. Braun Dairy. All organic and made 100% from seal milk. Braun Daily. It's Braun. Seal clapping good. Braun.
I told you he recommended you. Just read that ad right there. And Cool McCain jumps in and says, Mr. Johnson, fancy seeing you again.
Yeah, fancy. Well, the pleasure's all mine, Mr. McCain. It's good to see you too, my brother.
Absolutely. And it was, Cool McCain's been here. We've been having a fun time here going through the gridiron scoop. The one more thing I want to bring up to kind of, get you to get caught up with the main things we talked about, because we already pretty much broke down the MVP part when you were here last time with who we thought, and talking about Jake Bates and everything. And I said, I believe it's Jake Bates, Adrian Martinez, and AJ McCarron for the top three. Yep.
I agree.
And that would be my pick for the top three. And, the next thing I would talk about is NFL rookie Kool-Aid McKinstry buys Mercedes-Benz SUV for his mother. Was this a thoughtful Mother's Day gift or a poor display of money management by the Kool-Aid man?
Oh my gosh. Did his mama name him Kool-Aid? If so, that is a poor decision, but I digress. When I think of that, I think of when Teddy Bridgewater, when he was drafted in the NFL, he actually bought his mother, I forgot what type of car it was, but he bought her a car as soon as he was a draft pick. So if he has someone on his team that says, okay, you can't just go splurging, like you can't buy your mother a car and then buy a house and then go to Magic City and just make it rain in the club all in one fell swoop and in like in a 2-3 day span. You can't do that. Now, if it's along those lines, then yes, this is a poor display of money management. obviously. But if it was thought out that, okay, this is going to be a gift he's going to give his mom, then you could basically say this was a thoughtful gift. Oh yeah. I'm sorry, my bad.
We're pretty much on the same page. And I was saying, along the lines of she had to drive him to practices, to school, and all the stuff to get him around, change his Huggies when he was an infant, all sorts of stuff to get him to this point. I understand buying a mom a car, maybe not a Mercedes-Benz SUV fully loaded or whatnot. That's definitely a price tag on that unit. But I'm with you on that. I don't mind. It's for his mom. Same thing with Cool McCain. And the Playmaker even jumps in and says, "Oh, the EP of all EPs is here."
My goodness.
The hardest working content creator in all the land, with the compliment to Cole Johnson.
That is
These
true.
athletes need financial advisors, accountants, and tax lawyers. Absolutely.
Shaq pointed this out when he talked about when he got drafted. He said that he received a check and he basically just bought cars. And his accountant got a hold of him like a week later and he said, "Wait a minute, why are you splurging so much money? You realize you got to make this money stretch, right?" I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that." He said, "Man, he thanked this accountant for actually getting to him early, and ever since then, he actually has been really good with his money." But yes, you're correct, Sick. The athletes do need financial advisors or accountants or tax lawyers or a combination thereof or all of them. Because, their money is valuable and they need to have it stretched because they also need to understand that, you're making a ton of dough now, but it may go and you don't know when it will go.
Anything can happen out here in these streets. You never know.
Yeah.
And one last thing before we go to the grand champ here is, I don't know, Mr. Johnson might be the harder worker than me. And based on all the pots you've had your hands in today alone, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's been a big day. But yes, I can say thankfully all this passed. I won't have any more interruptions now. So everything is good.
It's all good, man. Definitely glad we could still make things happen out here. We've had some great comments and great action from the fans out here in the chat to help me keep going. And it's definitely been fun. But we definitely are. I'm glad to have you back here for this next segment because we got to go to the grand champ.
Total football talk.
Where are my dogs at? It's time. Dog.
With that being said, Cole, who do you think is your grand champ of the week when it comes to everything we saw from this past weekend in professional football?
Okay. Well, it will be Rashee Rice. No, it won't be. I have to do this. I would love to give it to one, but I don't think I will be giving it to one. And it almost hurts my heart in a way to do this because it's coming from me, an H-Tan guy, and I gotta give something from Dallas praise, and it's as if I'm an Eagles fan having to say something of worthy to a Cowboys fan. It's that, but I'm going to do it. No, it's not going to go to one player. It could go to Luis Perez. It could go to San Canella. It can go to the whole defense of the Renegades. No, it's not going to go to De'Veon Smith. No, it's going to go to the entire Renegade squad. Yes, all in the Renegades, you all get my dog of the week because you all have been working hard to try to get that dub. You have come close week after week after week. You have knocked on the door and you finally bursted through. And not only did you burst it through, this wasn't a victory you eked out. You earned this victory and dominated in the game to boot. So I will salute for one of the rare times I'll do it. a Dallas-Fort Worth area team. Dang, this hurts me to say that. But the Arlington Renegades, you all are my dogs of the week. You all the grand champions, brothers.
I like that pick. That's definitely a solid pick right there. They deserve to finally get their flowers after being so close for so many weeks, knowing what they did. And I want to agree with that. Like I really do, but I don't want to steal Cole's thunder. So I gotta pick somebody different here. And with that being said, I think I'm going to go with a player, not a team, and somebody that we've talked a lot about. The Cool McCain's talked about him with me. Kyle Nash has talked about him with me. Even Cole Johnson talked about him with me in the 7 weeks we've had the UFL. And that is somebody that could be the next MVP of the league. And that being Jake Bates, the next kicker to be a UFL, well, not a UFL, but a professional football league MVP. 3 for 3 this past weekend, one of them being a 51-yard field goal to help lead the Michigan Panthers to a victory and to get them to 5-2 and keep them in the playoff hunt for the UFL, for the USFL division. So when you put it all in perspective and you think about what the Michigan Panthers have been accomplishing this year, having both Nakua brothers on that team, one on defense, one on offense with wide receiver, displaying that there's a lot more than just one brother being Puka that's great in the Nakua family. You got all that going on, but the one team, but the main headline has and still is Jake Bates for what he's doing with his leg. He's getting several, rumor discussions about him throughout the NFL, but linked between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions as potential opportunities for him to be an NFL kicker this upcoming season. And he's displaying every single week why he should be an NFL kicker. So for that reason, and for that reason mainly, I'm going to say that Jake Bates is my dog of the week.
Well, in the words of Tupac, I ain't mad at ya. No, I ain't mad at ya. Not mad at you.
You like that? You like that?
Actually, I do. I like that pick too. I actually do like that pick.
And I like. I was doing that for you, and I was also doing that for me. I liked Cole singing, and he liked my pick. So it double down on that with the you like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is. There it is. The only thing we are missing, we're having a great turnout right now. The only thing we are missing right now is if somebody could page Vicola and tell him we are missing him. We're about to put him on a milk carton if he doesn't show up here soon. We miss you, Vicola. Come on back.
What?
I said bring him back. Reel him back in. Come on back.
Wow. Why did I have a character that actually had to say Vicola? I mean, it's stuck like bad gum on a shoe. Oh my.
Ooh, yeah, I hate that, especially when it's summertime, parking lots. Oh, yeah, we've all been there at some point. Playmaker says CM Punk was right. Hell did freeze over. Cole Johnson praising something in Dallas.
Yeah, man. I mean, praising something in Dallas. It's sad, man. It's man. I'd rather stick my hand down a garbage disposal while it's running than to compliment anything from Dallas. It just was painful. But I had to give it up to him.
Hey, everybody gets a flower at some point. Not flowers.
Yeah.
They got it. They deserved it. So
yeah, they do.
Gotta give it to them. And it's not the Cowboys. Okay, so it's something different.
No.
And 6 says, not to mention, Shaq had his stepfather, Sergeant Philip A. Harrison, in life as well at Cole Sports. Then that man gave Shaq some structure and guidance.
His structure was a little more from the standpoint of being that beast on the court. And it probably, I know he gave us some life lessons too, but and I know this because of the relationship I have with my father, which it's one of the greatest relationships I've had in my life. Even with as wise of a person that he was, when I was young, in my 20s, there were times I was like, not that my father didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, that's him. That's not me. And then I'll be doggone if the wise decision or the wise thing that he said to me panned out, and I basically was akin to touching a hot stove when your parents told you not to touch it. But I had to find out for myself, and I touched it, and my hand got burned. And I think Shaq had that type of thing when it came to money, because Shaq tells a story about when he in high school did a finger roll, and his sergeant, his stepfather, actually yanked him, pulled him aside, and slapped him in the face when he asked, "Well, why did you finger roll it?" And he says, "No, I want you to dunk the ball. Forget the finger roll crap, dunk it." And Shaq said every time he dunked it, he didn't really like to, but he dunked it and got angry, and he always thought that the sergeant slapping him that time, and that's what happened.
And sometimes you need to get that slap on the wrist to reel him back in and humble him a little bit. So you may need to be humbled for a minute. Ask Cole about the golf bag. So earlier, it was brought up by the Playmaker about the bag that was given to Jared Goff. And pull up this comment real quick so that way you can see it there, Cole. It was back early on. Here it is. Jared Goff has reset the QB market 4 years, $212 million extension with $170 million guaranteed. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think he deserves it?
Yeah. I say it from this standpoint. I believe he deserves it because you now have 2 years of him in Detroit, and they started off slow. They started off slow in 2022. They started off sluggish. They were like, what was it, 2-6? So they started off real sluggish. But no, it was 1-6. But they reeled off 8 out of their last 10, and that gave us the thought of, well, this team might be on the come up. And it was in large part to what Jared Goff did. And last year, you got a chance to see a team actually lift him up as a leader of the team. Forget the fantasy football numbers. Forget that he has the arm and he knows how to run the offense. The dude actually ended up being a leader. So you now have 2 years of a sample size of him being a Lion, and he's not looking anywhere close to the way he looked as a Ram, for the exception of probably his second year there. So, yeah, he got the bag. He deserved it. And he took Detroit to a place they haven't been in 32 years. I mean, that right there is the reason why he earned that bag.
Absolutely. And, you had very similar answer to that to what I did when he first brought that up earlier. And, of course, you gotta love the comment here. Cool.
You doggone. Yes, sir.
But yes, absolutely there, Cool McCain. Guys, we're going to take our last commercial break, but when we come on back, we have the featured attractions, the Snowflake of the Week, and the 2-minute drill before we wrap things on out. We'll see you here at the end of this last commercial break.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. COMI Media Incorporated. Creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D Willy in the evening.
This Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign D Willy 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie the bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. Slide some Willie bucks.
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D Willy is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central on the SIRTOBA Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are back for episode 37 today, May 13th, that you can see as we talk about the UFL Week 7 recap with the Undefeated Stallions turning back the Battlehawks upset attempt. As we are here, myself and Cole Johnson. Cole will be back here momentarily as he is getting some things straightened in the background over there. And we are back to discuss some things. We got the featured attractions to talk about. Got some things to go along with there, along with the 2-minute drill. So, guys, get ready. Here it comes. Put on the seatbelt. Get ready to rock and roll. And here with the featured attractions, we have Patriots quarterback Drake May has a lot to work on, says Coach Gerard Mayo. How concerning should this statement be for the franchise and the fans that support this team? And with that being said, do we have any Patriots fans out here in the chat? Anybody watching between YouTube, Twitch, X, formerly known as Twitter? Hell, even if you're watching on LinkedIn right now, what do you think? Are you a Patriots fan? Are you like Boston Connor over there on the Pat McAfee show? Are you a Patriots fan? Are you excited about this team for this upcoming season? Especially when you hear comments like this from your head coach, when you have Gerard Mayo saying he has a lot to work on. It's May, all right? We're less than 4 months from the start of the NFL season. We're less than 3 months from the NFL preseason. We're like 2 months away from training camp and getting ready for the preseason. Now, when we put all that in perspective, you've got Patriots QB Drake May has a lot to work on, being said by Coach Gerard Mayo. Cole, how concerning should this statement be for the franchise and the fans to support this team?
Well, they should be comfortable here with this statement. I mean, they had to deal with this with Mac Jones, but they didn't realize he was a forever project. Hearing what I was hearing when he finished his last season in North Carolina, and I know you heard this too, man. Between then, which I'm talking about December. Forget the bowl game, December to April. I kept hearing a lot of people say, oh, let me do this correctly. I kept hearing a lot of people in NFL circles say, quote, if you're going to draft a quarterback high, you do not draft Drake May. You don't draft May. You don't draft him at all. Close quote. And so when I saw the Patriots draft him, I was thinking to myself, I thought they fired Bill Belichick. Because this is a Belichickian move. I'm like, because, or for those who don't know, and of course, I know Drew does know, Belichick has the feeling that he can coach anybody into being a football player.
Yes.
It all that matters is if they have it in here, if they have the brain matter to compartmentalize everything that the coaching staff gives them. He believes that he can put the tools, even if they even if they haven't played the position before they even got to NFL, he thinks he can teach anybody how to be a football player. So with the Drake May draft choice, I was thinking, okay, so Jared Mayer must have, so that must have been, oh, that must have been Bill Belichick, but he spray painted himself brown. Okay, got it. It should be concerning, but it doesn't surprise me. I was hoping, though, that the Patriots would get away from stuff like this, but it looks like this is the way that they're going to be. And this actually is a mark on the stain of the scouting team. This really is. This really is. Has a lot to work on, and this is the guy that's going to bring you into your future, because I'm getting the feeling he's going to start week 1 this year. That is not a good thing. And you only have 4 months to actually get him prepared week 1 to actually be the guy. So if he has a lot to work on in 4 months, you better get started with him.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to think along the lines of the Commanders had Antonio Gibson, right? And this was a similar situation where he was a wide receiver at Liberty and they converted him to running back, right? So they had similar thoughts with being able to take, players and thinking they can move them to other positions and coach them up with what you were talking about with the hoodie, with Belichick. Them thinking they can do the same thing over here with May. And then they bring in Antonio Gibson at running back, which is the same thing as what I was talking about. So, you have multiple players you're trying to figure out. If you talk to Kyle Nash about this, because Drake May coming from an ACC school, he's going to light on up. So you already know about his thoughts on Drake May and going to the Patriots.
I'm sure he said, "Oh, Drew Willingham, the Patriots with that draft pick of Drake May, my friend, ding." They took a massive
I've tasked myself with creating the first ever student of the game commercial for him, and you and I have already collaborated on another project with you hooking me up with the voiceover, which I'm currently working on that. I don't want to spill the beans on that, but I will say this: the ding will be in the student of the game commercial. I promise you that. I'm going to find a way for it to at least be in there once, maybe twice. If I can get away with 3 times, hell, I'll do it. But I'm just saying, it's coming. It's coming real soon.
Kyle Nash, I heard your challenge.
Oh, yes, address it. Yes, address it.
And if it was tonight, I would be able to do it. But unfortunately, it's not tonight. But I can also do more than just this with my voice.
I'm waiting. I can't wait for this episode. I'm getting
so yes. I would love to do interact with you, sir, and of course with Drew. And I wish it was tonight. Literally, I would have the time to do it tonight, but unfortunately, you already have your guest booked. So
I do, and my brain would explode if I tried to figure out another way to get another episode in today. Like I'm looking forward to that break in between because my brain would explode if I prepped another episode for today. But no, hopefully at some point, maybe in June.
Yeah,
we can aim for that.
Hopefully.
To make it a little bit easier because not next week, but the week after is Memorial Day. I can't do in or out that night because you and I are already working on moving this up a little bit earlier in the day for that. But in or out is not going to be in 2 weeks, but it will be tonight and next week. But then we've got June, so we'll talk a little bit more behind the scenes and see what we can figure out. But before we get to our next topic in this segment, 6 says a new term in Cole's lexicon: Belichickian.
Yeah, I mean that draft pick just oozed a Bill Belichick scent, and I'm like, oh Lord. So yeah, you want to see if the dude had the brains to be a Patriot instead of the talent to be it. Okay.
You gotta wonder.
Hearing a lot that surprised me.
You gotta wonder, as much as they were getting sauced during that Tom Brady roast, they were getting sauced in the draft room on these nights, and they were making some of these decisions, like Mac and Cheese Jones over there to be their quarterback.
them fools were sauce in that roast. Goodness gracious.
It was definitely entertaining.
It was.
Who's giving them the business?
And they were giving them the business that night too.
Yes, they were.
Next on featured attractions, we have the UFL has been going viral for the drone camera angle in games throughout the season. Should the NFL consider adopting this view of the game that could potentially help increase viewership on their own product?
You're asking that question. You already know the answer to this question. It's not even a if they should adopt, but it's going to be when will they? Because the NFL is keen. They are keen on just simply snatching stuff just from out of nowhere, and it worked elsewhere. For example, you remember the overhead cam that the XFL 1.0 utilized, and everybody lampooned and crapped on the XFL for everything they did. But what did you see 2 years later? You saw that overhead camera, and then the NCAA adopted it too. So the NFL will find a way to have that be a part of their coverage, and it will not be a shock when it happens.
And I agree with that too. And I wanted to give Playmaker a shout out real quick here at the bottom to say he's got dropped because they've got Monarchs of Wrestling here in about 15 minutes. So, but yeah, definitely great to see you, Playmaker and Cool McCain. Thank you guys for both tuning in and, keeping the comment section on fire, throughout this show. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank
you. Looking forward to, yes. And once we wrap this up, I'll definitely tune into you guys for a little bit before I have to get ready for the In or Out Sports Debate tonight. But, while we're talking about shows, another great thing. It's been a little over 2 weeks, and then of course, plus today's episode, my man Cole Johnson with the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. You can check it out on BS3 Network. You saw the commercial earlier, but make sure you guys are tuning into that every morning, 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, 7 o'clock a.m. Central. On the Morning Shift, the BS3 presents it with Cole Johnson. Weekdays, Monday through Friday. I unfortunately am asleep during that time because of my work schedule, but I do go back and check it out. If I was awake, I would be in there tuning in because, for me, waking up in the afternoon is the same thing as people in the morning. It is a great way to get the day started for me, So Cole is like the motivational speaker of the day and then talking about some things you can learn from too. It's a lot to crunch down into an hour, but I will say, my man does it very well, very organized, has a great show there. So make sure you guys are tuning into that Monday through Friday. So you're welcome, brother. Anytime you come. Hey man, you gotta acknowledge greatness out here in these streams, and it is an honor, joy, and privilege to be able to have this show with you one day a week. But to have you have that platform every single day, Monday through Friday, I'm just happy for you to be able to do what you really love doing.
Yeah, I do, and it helps set the table. To me, it actually helps sets the table for everything else, including this, and it's given me a better perspective to do this. And I actually enjoy doing this more now because of the morning shift. Yeah, and I love and I agree. And I agree with you. It's not just for just people in the morning. It's for whenever you rise up. And I have worked third shifts. Like I've worked second and third shifts, so I understand it. I fully understand it.
It's tough, bro. It's tough to keep up with the early stuff in the day. But, I like the challenge, but I will say that the way everything has flowed and then watching your show and then like the inspirations from it has helped spark the In or Out Sports Debate coming back. So without that, like everything kind of flows in for a reason. And everything's flowing for both of us right now based on that. So you're setting the tone for all of us, brothers. So we appreciate you. And I think it's rubbing off on our other brothers in broadcasting in our chats too. So keep doing what you're doing, brother, because you're leading the charge out here in these streams.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, brother. And I can't even rebuttal to what you said with the drone camera angle because you were spot on with it for 1 and 2. They are going to adopt it because it's only a matter of time. When you watch that Stallions and Battlehawks game, it added more fire to that game and the content. It just felt like you were flying in there with everything, like you were a part of the game. Like NFL needs it. They need it bad.
Yeah, they do.
So
they do.
We got one more part of the featured attractions before we get to our Snowflake of the Week.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
The Chicago Bears get terrible news about rookie star wide receiver Rome Odunze suffering from hamstring injury. Is this current situation a continuance of bleak outcomes that result in dumpster Pelican-like production from this team?
I love your question.
That's why I saved it for last.
I love your question, and you're right. The answer to this question is no. This current situation is not a continuance of bleak outcomes, which results in dumpster Pelican-like production from this team. No. Now, what is a continuance of the bleak circumstance that is dumpster Pelican-like worthy situations in Chicago is the ownership group. Now, you all know that you are all them doggone Pelicans and the trash underneath. You suckers need to go. Sell the team. Do everything you can to just disassociate yourself from the Chicago Bears, because you all are making that organization trash. Go now, please.
Oh, the Eberflus effect.
Yes,
The
it's a Eberflus.
Eberflus.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the young man got a hamstring injury. But yes, no, that is not a continuance of it. Just the fact that the ownership group exists is. And yes, the Eberflus effect. The fact that they picked up Matt Eberflus, who was a non-existent defensive coordinator and really has done much of nothing in his first year as head coach of the team. I'm like, that's why I say it is the ownership group. I can't even put the executive staff, because it's the ownership group that just, there's a saying in the military, and you've heard this before. I know you have, Drew. Crap rolls down. I'm sorry, my bad. Let me do this correctly. Quote, crap rolls downhill. Close quote. So it's unfortunate that with the Bears, the team colors are wrong. The team colors should not be navy blue and orange. No. The team colors should be Dookie Shoot brown.
That's wild. You know, that's the Eberflus effect lives on, and it should. Like the ball. That's,
well,
that's
I'm not a fan of Eberflus either, so I'm with you.
The bowling shoe effect. I mean, just look at how, does this make the Falcons selecting Michael Penix Jr. over Rome Odunze a better pick now?
It might, although it sucks that they really don't need a QB if they're going to start someone that they've rolled 4 years and $180 million in front of. I mean,
yeah,
but it might.
Bro, it is wild. But yeah, when I saw that this week, I was like, yeah, we got to talk about that on Total Football Talk, because, we were just talking about how, the team with the Falcons passing up, Rome Odunze to take Penix. And then all of a sudden, right after that, you got this hamstring injury popping out. And you can only think about how is it already over for this team? This is what I was thinking already. And it's like, we got to reel this in. We got to see what's happening out here in these streams.
And then they have Caleb Williams is going to start week 1. They actually announced that a few days ago too. He
is starting already.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty early, I would say, to be announcing that. But
we haven't even gone through mini camp, let alone OTAs, let alone training camp, let alone preseason. And 4 months from now, we already know that Caleb Williams is going to be the starter heading into 2024. I'm like, okay, all right, here you go.
I'm trying to recall a time that a rookie quarterback was already announced this early in the offseason. Like, I can't.
I can't recall it either.
I mean, I think we've gone into it like with I think probably 98 with Peyton Manning was probably the last time we could anticipate it.
That's a close example. Yeah. Yeah, that's a close example.
Yeah, but as far as like knowing where like the coach, and I think that was just like speculation at that point, but it wasn't like, Jim Mora was already out saying that they were going to have him as the quarterback at that point. Like, I know I was still a kid back then, but it's still, I think that I would remember that. I just don't remember anybody else announcing early on in May that we got our starting rookie quarterback already.
No, it was presumed he was going to be the starter when he got drafted. I mean, it was presumed, but it wasn't. They didn't. The Colts didn't say late April or in May. Yeah, Peyton Manning week 1 is going to be our starter. No, they waited until training camp to actually do that.
Absolutely. And Sick even threw in from our last one of our last topics from the Patriots. By the way, the Patriots still have a Belichick on their coaching staff.
Yeah.
The youngest son, Brian, who's the safeties coach. Yeah, but I don't think he was in the room I don't think he was in the war room during draft time. I don't think they're going to listen to their safeties coach who they just fired his pops.
I doubt that too. Yeah. No,
but
I don't think that either.
We see your point though, Sick. We definitely still see your point. But
yeah, I do too.
With that being said, we've gone through all the featured attractions. It is time now to take it into the snowflake of the week. It is that time for the snowflake of the week where we take our pick for the worst player or franchise move in professional football for the week. When it comes to the snowflake of his week, when it comes to Cole, what is your choice for that pick?
Oh man, I'm so glad that you reminded me of something with the gridiron scoop. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful that you actually in the featured attractions portion. I'm sorry. I'm glad you put that in my memory because for me, the snowflake of the week, it's not going to be the Bears. No, it's going to be the city of Chicago. And the reason why, you all really do not want the Bears to be great either. I mean, you are in lockstep with the McCaskey family in just being dumpster fires for the organization. You got a dumpster fire ownership group, and you have dumpster fire governmental officials when it comes to all things Chicago Bears. I mean, you all can't decide if you want to put the new stadium in Highland Park. You can't decide if you want to still have this stadium where it is now, but you just crush the UFO that's in the Soldier Field Stadium place, and you make that a parking lot, and then you build onto it just only a few hundred feet away. Make up your minds. You have to understand something. You all have the possibility because you rendered a drawing. I think this was like about 2 weeks ago, where you all basically had the same type of design as Soldier Field is now, except you basically put a plate on top of the doggone stadium, and you want to encourage possible future Super Bowls to go there. No. Get on the ball, build a stadium that is worthy of an NFL team, and do so now. Look, we get that the Bears are dumpster fires. We get that. We get that there's a whole ton of dumpster pelicans, and they're dropping pellets of crap all over the whole city and all over the whole metropolitan area. We get that. We do understand that. I mean, the Bears haven't been crap since they got to the Super Bowl in 2006. I would say 2010 when they hosted the NFC Championship game, but they were horrible then too. I mean, you all have had nothing to cheer about with this team, and it is aided by the fact that you, as the governmental system that you are, you're crapping on this team just as bad as analysts are. I mean, it's just, come on. Make up your mind. Since the Bears don't own the stadium, you all do, and you all want to basically act as though you're mafia men. Like, they gotta talk our price. They gotta talk our price. Yesterday's price, not today's price, but the price that we give them. The Bears are they're putty in our hands. Well, that's fine and dandy and all that good, but if you screw this pooch, you screw around, you might have this team move away from the Chicagoland area, away from Lake Michigan, away from where you believe the Bears should play because you own that land, to a place where the Bears own it. And I get why the Highland Park deal fell through, because the Bears and the city believe that this is a Chicago team, and a Chicago team should play in the city limits of Chicago. I get that. But if you're going to screw them around, just like they are screwing the fandom around, you all deserve each other. And in fact, you can keep playing in that dumpster fire of a UFO sighting that is called Soldier Field. Come on, man. Stop teasing the Chicago metropolitan area. We can get a Super Bowl and build a 75,000 seat stadium with a roof over it. No, you ain't. No. So either crap or get off the pot, and I want you to get off the pot, because I don't think you really have the balls to even do this. That just frustrates me.
I think for the first time in a while, we're both going to go after a team and not a player. And that's a great thing to have today, and especially considering that we're going between two different leagues. And I'm going to go off on a team in the UFL, but that was definitely a great pick by Cole for his choice in the Bears and their stadium debacle and everything that we covered recently. But with Cole's added analysis on it, it definitely just proves to you how dysfunctional the Bears have been for quite some time. Okay,
100. Man.
Now, for my choice, I'm going to stay in the UFL and go with a team that Cole McCain called me a homer for about a month ago. Okay.
Oh, so he's going off into the Defenders. Okay.
Yeah, he's going off in the Defenders. Why? Because they've lost 2 out of the last 3 games. And, this past weekend, they did lose to a pretty good team. However, you're not helping your cause when you're only mustering up 9 points. The Michigan Panthers defense is pretty solid, but I feel like you could have at least got another field goal or so out of this, the team. And the reason why you guys have been struggling for so long is because your running attack has been going pretty bleak over the past few weeks. You started the season out 3-2, and it was because the team was still somewhat balanced, or at least portrayed that they were somewhat balanced still from last year. You still had your returning quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu. He was doing pretty solid the first month of the year. Now, fast forward, after the first 5 weeks, the first 4 weeks were now in the past 2 weeks, they're 2-3. They're 1-2 in the past 2 weeks after starting out 3-2. Now that they were 2-3, 2-2. No, they're 3-4 now. So looking at it before, they were 2-2. Now 3 weeks later, they're 3-4. And why? Because one, their quarterback play from Jordan Ta'amu has gone severely downhill. You look at what he did this past weekend, and we covered it again earlier in the show, but, he only had 127 passing yards and a touchdown and had to have relief duty by Jalen McClendon to put up another 73 passing yards. Why? Because Jordan Ta'amu just was not on his game, and neither was the rest of this Defenders team. When they're putting up 58 rushing yards on 13 attempts, one, they're not running the ball enough, and two, they're not getting enough production during each attempt they're running for. They should at least be trying to run for 20 attempts in a game if they want to be taken seriously out here in these streets, because at least that way you have a good mixture between the pass and the run, but you don't when you're only putting up 13 attempts in the game. Even teams that are putting up 20 to 25 attempts in a game that are having less production on the ground, as far as they don't have that many yards per carry, their games are still a little bit more interesting because the games are closer. This game was out of hand, and it was a 22-9 game because it wasn't a balanced attack by the Defenders, and the Panthers saw right through it. When you have somebody like a Nakua brother on the defensive side in a defense that has been hot throughout the first 6 weeks of the year before this game, you're going to be in trouble. And they were in trouble this past weekend. So that's why I'm giving my Snowflake of the Week to the DC Defenders, who deservingly so are on this list for a reason.
Let's see if I can think of how I can what I thought of what you said.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Yes.
Yeah. 100% with you, man. You can't, as my father would say, half a something. And then unfortunately, I think that's what you've been seeing with your defenders.
Yes, absolutely. And for Pops, I give him this.
Acknowledge me.
Because that's a great saying and definitely something that you have to incorporate in with this team, because they have been slouching it up when it comes to how they've been producing out here in these streets.
Total football talk.
And now it's time for the 2-minute drill, where we basically take a look at the teams that we have for this upcoming week. And we've got the Memphis Showboats traveling to Michigan to take on the Panthers at 4:00 p.m. Eastern time on Fox on Saturday, as well as the later game that night. The Houston Roughnecks travel to Birmingham to take on the Stallions that night at 8 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. We have the DC Defenders on Sunday taking on the St. Louis Battlehawks at 12:00 p.m. Eastern time on ABC. And we have then the late game, the Arlington Renegades taking on the San Antonio Brahmas at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. Looking at these 4 games right here, and we'll start it off with the first game, looking at the Memphis Showboats, who are 1-6, taking on the 5-2 Michigan Panthers, Saturday at 4 p.m. on Fox. What are your thoughts about this game right here, Cole? Who do you think takes the win in this game?
Let me see. Showboats, Panthers. All right. Well, I really believe in the Showboats. I think they'll find a way to pull it out. I just got a feeling that they're
lie.
My bad. The Panthers really should have an easy time with it, and the reason being, I'm loving their defense. Because I think what they're doing is they're realizing that their offense, it's not bad. It just they have red zone issues, and they can put up points, but the defense, I think, is locked in with understanding that they may need to force a turnover here and there. They need to be stubborn with probably some 3-and-outs. They need to not allow red zone penetration, pause, against the opponent. So the defense is solid and it's there. And I don't think the Showboats have anything on the Panthers Saturday. I just don't see them competing at all with them.
I don't either. I think that the Showboats fall to 1-7. Panthers move to 6-2, get closer towards a playoff run here for the USFL division. And with that being said, that's going to be our outcome for this game. Showboats take the major.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And speaking of giving them the business, the next game, the 1-6 Houston Roughnecks take on the undefeated Birmingham Stallions that same night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, ESPN2. Is it a repeat of the 1-6 teams taking the major L, or do we see an upset in this game?
I'm seeing this every time I look at the Roughnecks on TV. The Stallions, they yawn when they play them in Houston. They're going to yawn even further when they play them in Birmingham. The Stallions shouldn't even have an issue with them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One quarter of competition. After that, they're like, okay, we're bored. We're bored of you. Next game.
I wholeheartedly agree. The Stallions will get to 8-0.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Our next game, a team I just went off about, the DC Defenders, who are 3-4, travel to St. Louis, take on the 5-2 Battlehawks, who will be hungry, especially after coming close to beating the undefeated team this past weekend. Do you think they stay hungry and get to 6-2, or do the Defenders get to 500 this weekend?
I I think the Battlehawks have a bad taste in their mouths, and I think they want to. I think they want to issue it on anybody. I don't care. It could have been any of the other 6 teams. It did not. At UFL, it does not matter. I think they have a bad taste. I think they felt as though they should have gotten that dub against the Stallions. I do believe they still feel as though they're probably the only team that can beat them, and I think they want to prove that against the Defenders. And to me, I don't think it's a case of the Defenders suck. It's more the case of the fact that you got a Battlehawks team that's just motivated beyond what the Defenders can put on the field. And I think that's what you're going to see.
I agree with that. And, this is a tough matchup for them again, back-to-back weeks. They're facing, pretty good teams between the Panthers and now the Battlehawks. So they will be battle-tested, them being the Defenders. Yeah. But I think that the Battlehawks take this win and improve to 6-2.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And in our last game of the week, we have the 1-6 Renegades. Wouldn't think that we'd be talking about 3 1-6 teams at this point, but unfortunately, that's the case. Is the Renegades, who did get their first win this past weekend, a win that we were both very hype about. They traveled to San Antonio, within the state of Texas, to take on the Brahmas, 5-2. 4:00 on Fox on Sunday. What are your thoughts with this one? Do the Brahmas remain hot, get to 6-2? Or do we see a Renegades team after a victory this past weekend getting their first one, remaining hot and getting to 2-6?
Ooh. I actually think this will probably be a potential game of the week. I really believe it. We have talked about the Renegades. Their effort belies the record. And the Brahmas, I mean, I know they've had, I won't say issues, but they've had issues with health at the QB position. So that lends itself to continuity issues. Albeit they're at 5-2, it still lends itself to continuity and chemistry issues. And yes, I know this is at home for them. And they're fighting for their playoff lives, obviously. They're fighting for playoff positioning. I really feel as though I think the Renegades might pull it out. I think I'm gonna call the upset here, because I really believe that the Brahmas offensively, I don't think can put up enough points to offset what the Renegades can bring.
That's an interesting take on that, and I think that I agree with that too, as far as it could potentially be the game of the week, and hopefully deservingly so the game of the week for the outcome for the Renegades, because it's been the game of the week they've been in a couple times already this year for our show, but they just haven't been able to pull out the W. So I'm hoping that we get to see another victory for them based on how they've been playing. They have not quit, and a lot of teams you see at their stature at this point, you can already tell, physically, they shut down, and this team has not. Like, they're playing for pride now. They're playing for still a hopeful that a couple of them play well enough to get an opportunity to play in the NFL. That's why they're still playing hard, because they want an opportunity at the 2024 season, which that's in game for every team playing in leagues like the UFL or previously the XFL or the USL, just to get enough tape to where you can showcase that to a higher league like the NFL and get a better opportunity to make more money. And that's, when you have a team like the Renegades playing like they have been, it makes it harder for the eyes to be on that product when they're not playing that well as a whole. So, I think that this could be potentially the game of the week. I want to, internally see the Renegades get this, just to, end the year on a good note. But at the same time, I really like how the Brahmas have been playing, especially not having their starting quarterback and having to rely on their backup quarterback, and they're still in the hunt for a playoff run with all that being said. So at the same time, I still want to see the San Antonio Brahmas put up a great game, but who knows? We could be talking about this as the game of the week next week, like you said.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
With that being said, it is now time to take it to the final score.
Total Football Talk.
as long as it's one.
My apologies, the post game. It's been a long week for your boy here. But yes, the post game is here as we have some things to talk about in this final segment. But before we get to my thoughts, because you've heard my thoughts a lot throughout the show. You even heard my thoughts last night if you were watching SIRTOBA Media and things that have nothing to do with sports. But right here, right now, when it comes to the closing thoughts on this program, what are your thoughts there, Cole?
All right. So we got a chance to know how the NFL season is going to begin this year. So, all right, get ready. September 5th, kickoff is at 8:20 p.m., obviously Eastern. Arrowhead Stadium is going to go wild as the Chiefs receive their third ring in 4 years, and they will go up against the Baltimore Ravens. So we will see the AFC Championship game rematch to begin the year. And part of me is happy. And I say this from the standpoint of if the Chiefs actually have rounded the table and they've become more of a well-rounded unit, I think I would like what I'm going to see with the Chiefs. Now, if they revert back to being that we're going to take our shots downfield every single down, I'm not so sure I'm going to like that, but I think they're going to be a hybrid thereof. So to me, it definitely depends on what I see from number 8 of the Ravens. I want Lamar Jackson, and I'm saying this almost as a prayer. Mr. Jackson, sir, you now are a 2-time NFL MVP. You have talent beyond measure. There's no question about that. When you're in the open field, no one can catch you when you run. You have a strong arm. Unfortunately, you don't really have an accurate one. And for the F boys that say, well, he proves it every now and then, he has these perfect quarterback ratings. All I got to do is pull tape from the 2 playoff performances that he had this past year and say that you just simply don't have the accuracy necessary. And you can't force balls in double and triple coverage, which is what you did in the AFC Championship game back in January. So I know we're 3.5 months removed, almost 4 months removed from that performance. But 4 months from now, or almost 4 months from now, we'll get a chance to see you actually play the same team and hope that you learn some lesson in what in your maturation. Because I want you, sir, to study as much Steve Young tape as you can get your hands on. I want you to do nothing but watch a fellow number 8, because I get the feeling you wear number 8 because you have some sort of Steve Young love and affinity for him. But I want you to watch Steve Young, not with the Express in the USFL, and not with the Bucks, because he was running for his life like he was picking a lock to a car and he was running from the popos. No, I don't want you to run. I don't want you that way. No. I want you in the 49ers, not even when he was there the first 2-3 years, because he still was trying to scramble as soon as he saw the first read was covered. No, I want you to be that Steve Young from 1992 on, where he basically would pick apart defenses in the pocket. And when he had the chance, he could just show you every now and then that he had wheels. That's what you should do, sir. You in your 7th year. And I think if you were to just simply master pocket quarterback play, you'd be one of the most devastating quarterbacks in the league. And the Ravens would supplant the Chiefs as the team to beat in the NFL. I believe that. I believe in you. And I'm not going to say that you don't have the weapons. No. You can create them being weapons. All you have to do is just be accurate and just be a versatile, diverse quarterback. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to be. That's my prayer to you. And I hope that in 4 months from now, we start to see this maturation process where you basically dissect defenses from the pocket and not because you could run a 4.45 40. Now, as for the champs, you just stick to the script. Stick to the script. I would love to see you actually pound the rock a little more on offense and defense. Know that that's where your bread's buttered. The team now is defensively built because the best player on your team is Chris Jones, and it's not even a close second to him, including Patrick Mahomes. There isn't a close second. So I want to see a good game, and I think this is a good way to begin the NFL season. It made me excited when I saw this earlier today. And hopefully when we see the rest of the NFL reveal its schedule later on this week, I will feel just as happy, of course, with my team. And of course, I hope that my brother feels happy about his when he sees who plays the Commanders, when, and where. But as for the UFL, you're now down the home stretch, and I wish you all success, all 8 of you, all 8 teams of you. And if you can give us the same type of entertainment you have the first 7 weeks, I believe that we can actually say the UFL has been a successful first season. And it is due to the hard-earned sweat equity and the dedication that you all have to the sport. And we appreciate you for it.
Absolutely. Very, very, very well said there, brother. And, I've got a couple things to add with that. And it mainly falls within the NFL. The NFL, it stands for National Football League, but the side quest of that is the not for long league because, just as fast as you come in, you can go out just as fast too. And, talking about former players, we talked about players that have retired, talked about players that have, had a little bit of a bad luck, but I want to talk about one person who's about to get released from a team that you probably wouldn't have thought I'd be talking about for my final topic here on this show, and that being the team led by Gerald that Cole likes to talk about. The Dallas Cowboys are deciding to release controversial wide receiver Martavius Bryant. Yes, he, Gerald brought in Martavius Bryant last year around November. He arrived with the team in November trying to add a deep threat, but he didn't have an impact on the field for head coach Mike McCarthy or Gerald. And now, Martavius Bryant's 32 years old, and he was recruited by the Steelers in the 4th round of the 2014 draft. In his first seasons, Martavius dazzled the league with big plays alongside quarterback Big Ben Roethlisberger. But now, you got to look at what happened to the man. Only a couple years into the league, problems started with him in 2016 when Bryant was suspended the entire season after violating the NFL substance abuse policy. Although he returned with the Steelers in 2017, the wide receiver couldn't deliver. A year later, the Raiders made a trade with Pittsburgh for a 3rd-round pick to get him. However, Bryant violated again the conditions of his reinstatement and was suspended indefinitely. So with no chances in the NFL, Martavius Bryant went in 2021 to Canada and signed with the Toronto Argonauts. Despite that opportunity to revamp his career, the wide receiver didn't show up for training camp and was released. And he also had brief stints in the Indoor Football League and the XFL. Then coming to the Cowboys last November, of course, we already know about his underwhelmingly performance or lack thereof in Dallas. So with all that being said, my message is this, guys. Whenever you get an opportunity, make the best of it. It could be anything as small as a part-time job. It could be us doing this stuff out here in these streams. We put in these graphics, these intros, these outros, do the best we can, as EPs out here for our products to, add as much flavor as we can, all because we're just trying to seize the moment and make the best out of what we have. And that should have been the same for Martavius Bryant, who was getting paid millions of dollars to do something that we could only dream of and to receive money in a year that we could only dream of. So when you think about that, you're only 2 years in and you screw it up as bad as you did to where you never fully recovered. We're 8 years later talking about the fact that you're getting released and it took as long as it did for you to get back into the NFL. as it did, this is more than likely the end of his NFL career. Martavis Bryant more than likely will either have to go back to the IFL or jump into the UFL next year in 2025 to have possibly one last shot to, maybe get a third chance in the NFL, but I don't see it coming. I see him maybe still playing somewhere else, but I don't see him going back into the league again. He'll be 33 at that point. He's 32 now. I'm pretty sure it's over for Martavis Bryant. So pretty much my message with that is make the best out of your opportunity no matter what it is, and don't do things that will intentionally set you back. So, we all make mistakes out here in these streets, but someone like that, the amount of mistakes he's made and hasn't learned from them, that it's unfortunate, especially when you're in your mid-30s at this point. The other half of what I was going to say for this is, again, just thanking you all for tuning in. You've had a decent turnout throughout the platforms that we stream this show on throughout, beginning to end of the show. Went a little bit over than what we've had over the past month or so, just adjusting to what, how the day was going. But I greatly appreciate having Cole back again and being able to do the things that we did today and talk about the things we did. I got several things I'll be able to clip out later this week, throw up on our channels or whatnot and get from this show. It was definitely fun. And, when you watch us and you watch this show right here, you can go and check out Cole here through the flow code right here. The link to take this, you can find all of his social media platforms right here through flow code. And I promise I'm getting on it. But right now you'll have to check me out through these 17 links listed on this screen right here. No, it's not 17, but it feels like it with all the text on the screen. To give you an update, I started a flow code. I just haven't finished it. So when I finish it, I'll have it for Cole. We'll have to update that graphic and get it to you to make your lives easier. I'm not doing it on purpose. Just a busy guy out here in these streets. But I'm trying. I am trying, Cole Johnson. I'm trying. You're muted. You're muted.
So you said, check out the 17 links. I'm like, oh you are incorrigible, sir. Incorrigible. Oh my gosh.
It's not a full show if we don't. At least for a few seconds.
It's not a full show if we fail to go off the rails. Okay, that's good to know.
For a few seconds at least. but definitely, as always, we talked about earlier, guys, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning to the morning shift with Cole Johnson, the BS3 Network presentation. But tonight, in just a couple hours, a little over a couple hours, you can see me and what Kyle Nash dubs as Black Jesus. Corey Mann joins the show again for the 6th time. Yes, you can give Kyle Nash a bing for that. That was his nickname. Corey Mann's taking it and running it. He loves the nickname. As he will see us here tonight for episode 107. And soon we will have a Bing Fest between Cole and Kyle. We are going to make this happen in the backdrop of what we do. Yes, it is coming. It is coming. But guys, we're at that point of the show where we have a couple comments to acknowledge. Mainly, does Drew Willingham know the Sam Kinison alphabet? I do not, Sick. Let us know here in the comments after the show. We'll get back to it, revisit it at some point. But we're at that point of the show where we cannot end this any other way but without Cole Johnson taking us home.
Why does it almost feel like I should channel Russell Simmons? Thank you. God bless. Good night. No. Listen, we do appreciate you. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting in the comments. And if you're watching this on replay, thank you for your comments as well. And thank you for hitting that notification bell so that you can catch any and all content that comes from the SIRTOBA Media YouTube channel and the COMI Media YouTube channel as well. And thank you for the love that I've been receiving thus far from the morning shift as well. For Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson. Here to say parting as we always do. In life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
And as always, stay safe out here in these streets. And these streets.
Ya.
Peace.